So, welcome to the Groovy Movie Review, a show in which we talk about movies in the most righteous way. Today we'll be talking about Taxi Driver, and today we'll be co-hosted by myself, Devin, Nick, and Thomas.
Hey.
Alright. We're going to kick this off by starting off with our first segment, Exposition Inquisition, where we flash back on the story and bring us all up to speed. If you mind spoilers, now's the time to abandon ship, but feel free to join us again for another episode in the backlog or check back for our weekly updates. With that said, we're going to go ahead and move forward, jumping into the plot, and then we'll have Thomas move us forward with the rest of the story. So, to start things off, how the movie goes is it starts with the character Travis, who starts the movie by getting a job as a taxi driver. He goes and finds a girl that he likes. He eventually asks her out. They start dating, and she works for a presidential campaign for the next Democratic nominee. Ultimately, the relationship blows up. She doesn't want to see him, and he's feeling pretty down. Ultimately, he starts to spiral a little bit, starts to get down, and he starts to radicalize a bit. He starts purchasing all these weapons and decides to take it upon himself to assassinate the nominee. So, ultimately, the CIA end up basically stopping his plan, and he gets away. So after that happens, he sort of shifts focus towards a 12-year-old prostitute that he met earlier on in the movie, and decides that he wants to be a white knight and kind of rescue her, get her away from the lifestyle that she's been living. And sort of, she decides that she's kind of okay with it. So he eventually goes in to the pimp house where she's been living, goes in guns a-blazing, kills everyone in there, and rescues the girl. It ends with, him coming out pretty badly injured, but all right in the end. The girl gets returned to her family, gets a note of appreciation. The girl that he once was dating in the beginning, gives him a quick glancing look of, hey, you did good. And he goes back to driving a taxi, living his life once again. And that's how the movie ends. So, we're going to go ahead and jump into the scenes and the analysis of them. Thomas, please guide our ship on our first segment.
All right, guys. Yeah, so for Exposition Inquisition, we have pretty much the movie is just a character study of Travis Bickle, essentially. He's almost in every scene. So I'm going to quickly go through every key scene. It starts off with the title sequence, of course, which introduces New York City as a character, the cabs, and, of course, that classic Bernard Herrmann score, which I think is iconic. And we will go into detail of that later, of course. But really sets the tone of being kind of the duality of Travis's personality, the switch from jazz to kind of a dark militaristic tone, and it really defines the movie. And I like that the critics established that. From there, we go into Travis, introducing Travis, him interested in getting a job. He can't sleep at night. He's kind of aimless. He gets a job as a taxi driver, whenever, wherever, he says it himself. So he does graveyard shift, and once he starts driving, he gets left to his own thoughts and starts kind of turning on New York City. I don't know how much it was before the taxi driver job, but really when he's driving and doing the graveyard shift is when he really comes into contact with a bunch of people and starts to really turn on the city and start to really revile the city and hate it. So he's doing the job, still having trouble sleeping, having his little running diary where he just rags on people and the city itself. From there, we have scene where he's trying to wind down. He's in the adult movie theater, hitting on girls, trying to get a date. That's kind of a key thing. His loneliness, trying to find connection, and he's looking for it all the wrong places. Then we introduce Betsy. From there, he sees her as a perfect beam of light, uncorrupted, and realizes she's linked to the Democratic potential nominee for the Democratic election coming up. He's running in the primary, so he starts becoming interested in that campaign, as well as Betsy, just to get closer to Betsy. That doesn't obviously go too well, and kind of her blowing him off is kind of what further radicalizes him, and he kind of gives up on trying to connect to people, and kind of turns on the candidate Palantine, and pretty much starts getting more and more radicalized. Meanwhile, he notices a young girl named Iris who appears to be a prostitute, and that becomes kind of his new focus after the Betsy thing breaks down, is to kind of save Iris from being in this dirty, filthy occupation that he hates. And so it's kind of running side by side, him trying to save Iris while also trying to win back Betsy, and then giving up on Betsy, and then taking out his anger on politicians in general, and especially the politician that Betsy aligns herself with. So it becomes like a key decision for him. He decides that he's going to, it appears, assassinate Palantine. It doesn't go exactly how he expects. The Secret Service seems to be onto him. He bails out and decides instead, like a twist of fate, to save Iris instead. And he goes kind of from villain to vigilante hero, and that's just kind of how the movie wraps up. He could have been an assassin, ends up being a kind of anti-hero. And that's pretty much how the story goes, and we'll go into much greater detail. There's a lot of key scenes here. But do you guys have any initial thoughts, maybe initial reactions from when you guys first saw it before we get into deeper scenes?
Yeah, I mean, the movie definitely has a very somber tone. It's, I think if you're looking, for a more traditional film, this isn't very much it. Definitely not something the average moviegoer can just jump into and enjoy. But if you want to sit down and, watch a deep thinker, this is definitely the way to go for sure.
Yeah, it's just like the characterization of Travis is what draws me in. It's just a full, beautiful arc, and has a beginning and an end, and yeah, it's pretty complex. Cool. Nick, anything to add right now before we jump in?
I actually really like. I don't know if it sounds a little bit, if any of you picked up this kind of vibe, but I love this descent into madness.
Mm-hmm.
That's portrayed for this character, because he starts out, he's just, it's like he starts out just trying to get a straight job, and then you learn he's anything but normal because of where he's been, what he's seen. He just came out of Vietnam. So this so when I see him like go all like radical, it's like, if this were any other character, this might seem weird, but because of learning Travis's background, so to speak, it's like you learn a lot about his background just based on his application to be a taxi driver.
Yeah, which I wanted to get into that scene right away. It is the job interview. I think it tells you, there's so many red flags that pop up there. It also tells you so much about his character. So as you brought up, there was the military record, which I think is crucial for his character. He says honorable discharge, May 1973, Marines. That's really, I
think that's like the major thing that endears the guy, the interviewer, to giving him the job in the first place, because he remarks like, I was a Marine too, and that's when he's like, well, what exactly do you want out of this, Yeah, because all before that he's basically just running main fare interview. So yeah, without that, he wasn't gonna get the job.
Yeah, it's pretty key.
Yeah.
So something that's going to come up later, it's kind of an idea I had looking back on the movie on a rewatch. We learn later that Travis is an unreliable narrator, because we're listening to his kind of diary the whole time. like there's that part where he is lying to his parents that he is with Betsy and that he has a job with the government.
Yeah.
And that all these kind of lies. So I feel like, do we even know that it was an honorable discharge? I bet he was drafted into Vietnam, no doubt, because I don't think he had a choice. But was it honorable? Maybe it was he went AWOL. Maybe it was a dishonorable discharge. I think I don't believe everything he says at face value, which is something we learn about him later in the movie. But in the beginning, we have no reason not to believe him. And it helps him get the job, which that's kind of the nature of hiring someone. Is the interviews, you can only believe what they're telling you, and it's you have to kind of see through the BS. And this scenario was pretty convincing, I guess. The playing on the Marines thing, yeah.
Yep.
Few other key things in that scene that kind of play on his character. So he mentions that he has trouble sleeping, and the interviewer says, "There's porno theaters for that." And Travis says, "Yeah, I know, I tried that," which I thought was interesting. That there's at least one other time he gets advice from the other taxi driver, Wizard, and I noticed there's a pattern in older men trying to give Travis advice as a 26-year-old. It's kind of like, just go, rub one out and you'll feel better, or just that kind of thing. It's kind of a pattern. Like that's how men deal with their problems. Just get off and you'll feel better. Don't think about those
hard,
thoughts.
Man.
Yeah. And I think
Suppress.
that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That's like the older generation. That's their advice for the younger generation. It's kind of
forget
crazy.
about it, man. Forget about it.
And he has a conflicted relationship with sex to begin with. So I just think he's been getting bad advice his whole life about how to deal with his lust. But yeah, we'll get to that later. Another thing that's established, which might go hand in hand with the Marine military background, is Travis says, "I'll work anywhere, anytime." It's kind of like a work ethic, dedication to duty kind of thing. Like that's ingrained in his head. Like, you have your job, your duty, and it's your job to just work hard and not ask questions. That kind of mindset, I think, is kind of instilled in him, and it kind of it's what gets the whole pattern. Like him being alone with his thoughts he's able to self-motivate with that kind of sense of duty is key to him, I think. Yeah, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. One last thing. He says he mentions that he doesn't have much education also, which I think is key because he probably got drafted at 18, because if he was out in 73 and he's 26, so he got out of the Marines at age 23, so he's probably in there from either from 18 or maybe in his early 20s. So I think that's important, that like going to college wasn't really an option. You just got drafted, and it's just kind
straight
of
into the war.
Vietnam was the occupation.
Yeah, it's trying to figure out what to do with his life from there.
Exactly. And I think that shapes him more than anything, is that just being lost. He lost that whole period when you get out of high school is like a foundational period on who you're going to be. And I don't think he ever got that. All that he ever was a soldier.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not to say that that's not possible for many of the people who do go to the military. There are plenty of people who go from 18 on, but if you choose that, you obviously have the ability to reckon with that reality more easily than if it's like forced upon you, especially during active wartime. So when someone is thrust into that situation without the mental fortitude or factors to process that, it definitely makes it a little bit harder to come out and be just fine, be normal.
Yeah. It's especially if you don't have any bone spurs currently like aggravating you, then you have to just suck it up, go to Vietnam.
Got to be careful with those bone spurs.
And then, oh, sorry, one last thing, which I think is foreshadowing. The interviewer asks him, "How's your driving record?" And Travis responds, kind of with a little grin, "It's clean, real clean, like my conscience." And that crap is just chilling for me, like, because on a rewatch, like where this is gonna end up. It's just like, man, this guy's effed up already, and I think that's a hint of the him being God's lonely man, as he self-proclaims himself. But yeah, anything else you guys want to add about that scene, which I think is a really important scene?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it really sets off the whole movie because it sets him on his path towards insanity, gets him where he's going, gets him the job he wants. He's dealing with insomnia, and this is something that he wants to do to try to help him sleep, help him figure out how to, I don't know, find new purpose. And ultimately, it's a good starting scene.
Yeah. And it's kind of like a connecting scene. It also reveals one more thing about his character that is important. When he's walking home after the interview, you can see there's like this long shot of him walking down the street drinking alcohol, I'm assuming, out of a paper bag.
Yeah.
I think that's another important aspect of his character, is that he's like an alcoholic implied. So it's like that, like the psychological damage combined with alcoholism and insomnia is just like a recipe for disaster. And he's popping pills at some point in the movie too.
Yeah.
And his diet is also established to be very unhealthy. He's eating fast food, junk food all the time, chips. So it's just like, oh man, this is like the worst thing you can do to adjust and assimilate into society. He's like doing the exact opposite.
Yeah, he's living on like the worst possible stuff. But I mean, like, that's half of America right now.
Yeah, right. Oh God.
He's a man of the people.
Cool. But yeah, from there it goes, I think the scenes of him driving through New York and him like his little narrating diary are pretty important. Just pretty much establishes that he's just sickened by these people.
Gives you further deep dive into his thoughts. Talks about cleaning cum and blood out of the taxi every day. So.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's getting some savory characters in there every day.
Yeah. And there is a distinction between the early scenes where he's driving to the later ones. At this point, like the way he's talking, it still seems like he is hoping for some kind of outside external force intervening and cleaning up the streets. Either God or politician. He still has faith in that someone is gonna come fix everything. And that's kind of like where the disillusionment comes into play. At first, he buys into the Palatine thing, like, hey, this could be the guy. And then once he realizes it's not going to be any different, that's when he takes matters into his own hands and becomes a vigilante.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting that he still thinks there's some hope that someone's going to wash the streets clean or whatever,
Yeah. I think, just a quick aside, I think it's interesting that, X-rated movies is such an important factor, like, in this movie, because, honestly, not being from that era where that's even a thing, it's so interesting to see it apparently being common back then,
Yeah.
And they even have, like, title screens and everything, like, they have the movie names front and center.
Yeah.
Marquee and everything.
Yeah, there you go. Marquee, yeah. It's just crazy. People are sitting there just hanging out together, all enjoying the experience. Like, what is that experience like? Does everybody just, like, keep their hands to themselves?
Yeah, are they jerking it? What's going on?
I guess.
Apparently, couples go there all the time, so...
Maybe they wait. That's like in the 70s, you just watched it, and then you memorized it, and then you went home and did your business.
Yeah, I forgot what I was watching, but I remember someone saying that it was like in a show or movie or something, but maybe a documentary, but someone was talking about how they like went to a movie with their dad or something like that. Like their dad took them to one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was like how they saw their first like X-rated like flick.
The birds and the bees talk right afterwards.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
The whole 9.
Weird stuff though.
You're telling
Weird
me.
Or during the
you're telling-
intermission.
Even
That's
if they-
nothing I would
right?
ever
Yeah.
want to see with
So what'd you
any
think,
of my
Billy?
family members.
That's how we made you.
Oh, God.
He's like, we didn't have to do any work telling him.
Yeah.
All right, I escaped that. I escaped that responsibility with $5.
That's kind of how it happened for me. My mom just, I was in my room one day, wee little Devin chilling, and my mom just threw a book in there and was like, "All right, time for you to learn." That's how I learned about the birds and the bees.
Are you serious?
Dang.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, okay, Mom,
Man.
thanks. I'm a real
And-
boy now.
In Travis's case, I feel like this is kind of his education. We don't know where his family is, but I feel like he went to war. Maybe he was exposed to like pornographic magazines in the military. But I think once he came home, that was like, okay, I need to find out how this works so I can like, how do I get a girl to like me? Okay, how does this work once we get down to the nitty gritty? And that's him like educating himself, I think, maybe. Because it's so like contradictory. Then, and that's brought up, that nature of Travis is that he's so anti all the corruption and sin, but then he goes to these movies. Is it like he's trying to understand other people and why they're why they are the way they are, or does he actually like it? It's debatable on if he's enjoying himself, or it's like academic for him. What do you guys think?
I don't know, man,
man.
because
The way he talks to, what's her name, Betsy, about the
Yeah,
whole thing, I think
exactly.
it's just normal for him.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was gonna get at, dude.
Yeah.
He talked to her. He's like, I was taking you to a good movie, and he just sits there. He doesn't look like he's getting hot and bothered or in any way. He's just sitting there like
Yeah.
it's a normal movie. Like to him,
Absolutely normal.
that's just it's just absolutely normal. She's looking at him like, the fuck are you talking about?
Why are you like this? And I mean,
Um,
can you blame her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just so weird. Like, I still have like this part of me thinks that was like a test, like a morality test. He brought her to that movie to see if she was really someone that was meant to be for him. Like, if she liked it, then he would know she was just another one of the people, the helpless people. And if she reacted like that, that's when he really doubled down, trying to get her, sending flowers and everything. I felt like he was testing her. It's kind of like my theory about that. Do you think that's maybe? I think
it's
he's
an
confused.
interesting- It's an interesting take. I don't know that that's necessarily where it comes from or where it goes. At least from my perspective, I don't see it that way. But it is interesting.
Yeah.
I just feel like he's trying to
fit in.
Yeah, he's trying to understand, He's like, all right, well, obviously I failed this route, so he's like, all right, let me just start over, start fresh, send her some flowers, try to call her up, see what's good. And,
Yeah.
I think just the obliviousness about him, as
Mhm.
like in that scene, ultimately he says like, I don't know, like this is normal for me, like I don't know about these things, I don't know about movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a quote that I have highlighted, which I think is really important to this, what we're talking about. He basically in his narrating diary says, all my life needed, all my life needed was a sense of some place to go. I don't believe that one should devote his life to morbid self-attention. I believe that someone should become a person like other people.
Yeah.
And I just think that's him, like, okay, I'll fit in with them and I'll try to be like them, but then his like hatred of the
Them.
like the sin. It's like it always goes back to disgusted with how people are and how society is, and he decides he can't be like other people.
Mhm.
It's kind of what he keeps going back to that, and and trying to do it and then can't do it and then going back.
Yeah, I definitely see that for sure.
But yeah, because that was the first. I think we can go. Let me go back to the date real quick.
But
yeah,
I guess
go ahead.
For the time being, shall we take a break? Give us
Alrighty.
time for that ad.
Yeah, give me time to shave my head
There we
into
go.
a mohawk.
Yeah. We're gonna go ahead and shave our heads. We're gonna come back with nothing but a mohawk in honor of Travis Bickle. So
As if he died.
we'll see you back in a singular minute. Hope that you stick around. Thanks for joining. See you soon.
But yeah, so now that we're back, we can stay on the topic of Betsy, which I think is important. And I think Travis's kind of association of getting like female attention with like sinful behavior and lust, and kind of connecting the campaign she works for, all interconnected, as he sees her as a surrogate for the campaign and political change somehow. And when she basically ends things with him is when he turns on the campaign, which shows that he was really only becoming politically interested just to get close to her. But he kind of irrationally takes his anger out on the campaign. So it's like he didn't have a political ideal, although he wanted change. He talks about it all the time, how he thinks he wants the streets cleaned up, and that Palatine seems to represent kind of that kind of ideal. But then he decides to take revenge on him, and maybe, I don't know, what do you guys think about that whole like dichotomy of his relation between the politics of Palatine and Betsy turning him down and him turning on the campaign? What do you guys think of kind of the symbolism of all that?
Yeah, ultimately, I think it is, like you said in the beginning, it is a big draw between a big draw between between him sort of correlating the campaign directly to her. So, with her turning him down, it's ultimately the campaign turning him down, and I think he just relates the two together, unfortunately, as like one entity. So it's like if a girl that you, obviously you got to be a messed up person to do this, but like if you like shoot someone's dog, it's kind of the same way, you shoot like an ex's dog, it's kind of that, but on a much grander scale. So I think that's kind of how he sees it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
because I think it's really complicated, and obviously Travis is really messed up, but it kind of goes back to kind of what I was saying earlier about her being kind of uncorruptible and being kind of pure, and how he thinks she's kind of the beacon of light in New York City. She's different from all the animals out there, the savages that he rides around New York every night when he's doing his gig as a taxi driver. When he first sees her, he has this line. He says, "She is alone. They cannot touch her." Like he's really thinking about it. And I think that's important, separating the they from the her. Like she's, and I think that's why he really gets behind the campaign. Because like, wow, if someone like that supports this guy Palatine, I don't know what he stands for. He kind of finds out a little bit as he goes along. I just think like he's looking for something else to stand for. He stood for the U.S. military. Now he's like, okay, I need something else. Kind of, he's used to taking orders, that kind of thing, something to represent. And now he's not in the military anymore. He needs new like orders. And I feel like, oh, Palatine, I can get behind that. He could be my commanding officer, and I'll support him, and then I'll get the girl, and everything will be great, and we'll clean up the city. It's all idealistic at first, but then kind of her not being on the same level with him kind of makes it go bad. Which I think it's important. We should talk about their first little date before he takes her to the X-rated movie when she first gets coffee with him.
Yeah.
There's a lot of red flags right there. I still don't know why she even went out with him in the first place. But
she didn't want to judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, she's trying to do that. But it's like, man, you should have never gone out with that guy again after that, the way that meetup went.
Yeah.
Because she says, because he keeps focusing on Tom, the guy she works with, played by Albert Brooks, and he keeps saying he's no good for you. I don't see any connection whatsoever, and just like he has like tunnel vision. Like she's trying to like, okay, let me learn more about you, and he just keeps going back to like, that guy's no good for you, and that kind of.
Which
like,
honestly,
you have her attention,
like
Travis.
I feel like the dialogue that they do have in the movie between those two is actually really good, you know?
Yeah.
Very witty, and they play off each other really well. So the fact that
She
he
should
says
be with
that
him.
is just so backward, yeah.
Yeah. Like, and even then, it was like he had her attention, so it was like, might as well let it go. She wanted to learn about you full. That's the time.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Yeah, he just could not let it go. I'm like, God damn, bro, chill.
Which, quick aside, I just want to say that I actually like your interpretation of his, radicalization and turning on the president more than mine. So just wanted to put that out there. Yeah.
Oh, cool,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know. It just seems like that's just how it's progressing. It just seems like it's too connected not to be a thing. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, in the little quick lunch break, one last thing I wanted to get to real quick. That's where the concept of Travis Bickle being a contradiction comes into play. Betsy says how she reminds him of the Chris Christopherson song, and then she starts singing it. And she says, he's a prophet and a pusher, partly truth, partly fiction, a walking contradiction. And then Travis gets all offended. He's like, I'm no pusher, and thinks that she's trying to associate him with being a drug dealer, and obviously that's what he hates. Like, he just got triggered right there, because that's what he's railing on all the time, is all the corruption. And then she's like, well, no, mostly the last part, the contradiction part, because I just think that really defines Travis, just the whole wanting to be like moral and right and upstanding, but then just approaching everyone all like sideways and weird, and then taking girls to go see pornos and then just kind of embracing the radicalized side of him. It's just it fits in with his whole personality, and it's just so crazy. Like, and I understand, like, that's how people are sometimes. And I think that's how it connects to the score as well. Just the two forces like at play and constantly intermingling, and it's not like black and white. There's always a little blend between the two sides of someone, which I think is really, really important for Travis. And then he brings up something that pays off later during the scene. He says, I should get one of those signs. One of these days, I'll get organized. And Betsy doesn't get the joke. He's like, well, organized, that's the joke, is that he's unorganized. And he ends up with that poster in his apartment at some point, and it's during a crucial montage of when he's really like gearing up and getting radicalized. And when he gets organized for Travis, means getting ready to assassinate a presidential candidate, pretty much. Is what it comes to mean. But we'll stick with the Palatine thing for a little while longer. What do you guys think of Palatine? Do you think he's a phony? He's obviously he seems pretty like a populist type candidate. What was you can get little hints at his campaign and his platform. What were your guys' impression of him so far? Yeah,
I mean, like, the first thing that they say about him when they're discussing his politics in the campaign office was make make sure that they cover the mandatory welfare program. So obviously he is running a more progressive platform.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
Yeah. So I definitely think that ultimately, like you said, he's definitely a very populist candidate. But when you see him in the cab, when he gets in with Travis, and you see the way he gets to know, like, you see what kind of person he is. Like, he searches the cab and he finds Travis's name to, like, say, "Oh yeah, I appreciate that,
Yeah.
Travis." He knows how to talk to the people. So he's a very smooth guy, very politician, very
Yeah.
yeah.
And the whole time I was trying to determine, like, is he really sleazy? Is he fake? Is he a phony? And I can't, like, I feel like he's genuine. I think he would have actually been a good candidate.
I don't want to say that I don't want to say that he's a sleazy person, because his response to Travis, when ultimately, like, he looks like concerned when Travis is like, I just want everything to be flushed down the toilet. I just want it all to be wiped away. He's just like, I understand, but stuff takes time.
Yeah.
So I feel like he was realistic. Like, he was relatively genuine in that response. So he wasn't just faking out the guy and saying, like, we'll get it done. Don't you worry. Get it right done. And so he's being real. So I don't want to like say that he's a bad character. I think that ultimately, like you said, he would be a good candidate.
Yeah, I was kind of sold. Like, I was ready to vote for him, pretty much.
Yeah. Palantine all the way. Palantine 2020.
The fact that they set him up to get into the cab like that, because he was having an argument with, like, I don't know, the campaign manager or whatever, about taking the cab and not waiting for the limo or whatever. And he's like, no, the cab's fine. And then when he gets into the cab, he says to Travis, let me tell you, I've learned... Or he says it to one of them. He says, let me tell you, I've learned about more about America from riding in taxi cabs than all the limos in the country. Which, I mean, he puts his money where his mouth is. He actually gets in the cab. And so I feel like he could be like, oh, he's just doing that just to save face. But no one knows about it except Travis, So I feel like he's kind of legit. But, that was a good time to bring up his counterpart. So it's really subtle who he's running against for the nomination, but it's a candidate named Goodwin. I don't know what his first name is, but I think it's very important where you see his campaign poster. It is seen in the scene with where Travis is talking to the other cabbies, and based on the conversations they have, I think it kind of indicates that the Goodwin candidate is more the opposite of Palantine. He's more of the let's keep everything how it is. Everything's already fine. We don't need to change. His campaign slogan on the poster is, I believe, a return to greatness, which sounds really familiar to me.
I honestly didn't even notice that. I didn't know that there was any indication of, like, his competitor. So hearing that is pretty amazing.
Yeah, which that was kind of eerie for me, seeing that that his counterpart is a traditionalist pretty much, and I don't know. Yeah, I think that says a lot because in that scene there's two key scenes where Travis is sitting down with the other cabbies, and it kind of reveals a lot about Travis's kind of emergence as a taxi driver, and then how those kind of guys think. Let me bring it up real quick. But yeah, so now we will get into kind of Travis's interaction with the other cabbies and how it relates to I think the other candidate in this election, Goodwin. So the first time that he's sitting down with all the other taxi drivers, something interesting that comes up is it's kind of a thread through all of their interactions. Is there's a distinct racial like tension that comes up. So they are talking about how a driver got cut up, I believe, over in Harlem. And one of the drivers says, it was over in Mau Mau Land. and I didn't know what that meant, but I knew it was anti-black. I just knew it was, so I looked it up. And so the Mau Mau uprising. Have you guys ever heard of this?
No, I haven't.
So it was the basically the Kenyan rejection of British colonial rule, in which they kind of fought for their independence, pretty much.
Cool.
So it was happening, I think, around this time. So to basically imply that they don't go into certain neighborhoods, and specifically Mau Mau land, which would imply people of African descent, is a pretty key thing to the way they interact, and which makes me think these guys would all vote for Goodwin, maybe. The guy that wants to return to greatness back before the streets were. The subtext there is like the streets were filthy. I don't know. Maybe they're implying certain people are the ones that are messing it up. I don't know. That's one way to look at it. But I feel like there's
being the general theme of America, that probably makes sense.
Yeah. So I think it all connects. That's why the Goodwin poster's there. And I kind of call it the racist gaze. Is kind of my theory for it in this movie. But Travis has a few interactions with black characters. He doesn't talk
I've
to
noticed that too. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So after the talk about Mau Mau land, I don't know if that gets in his head, implying that it was probably a black person that cut up this driver. And, there's the hate associated with that.
Right.
It's a key moment. He looks in the diner. There's also some characters that are dressed. I don't know. They're dressed pretty fancy. Maybe they're pimps. The way these guys look. But,
yeah, they got the hats with the large brims all the way around.
Yeah.
And some nice suits.
So Travis looks at them, and I don't know if you guys know this. It's one of like the key shots of the movie. He looks at them, and then he kind of zones out from the conversation with the cabbies, and then he puts an Alka-Seltzer in his water, and then just stares at him. Zooms in on
and it just fizzes.
Just the fact that after looking at these successful, like, kind of black characters, he gets nauseous. I just think that's like insane, because that's the association for me. He got nauseous.
That is an interesting thought. Yeah,
Why
I honestly never considered that,
right
because
there?
it never came to mind that that was kind of the context of the scene. Like, I thought it was weird that it was like focusing so heavily on those black guys. I was like, I don't is it just because their outfits or something? Because maybe I thought it was maybe some like context from the time, like maybe their outfits had something to do with it or something. But yeah, I mean, that like, and that Mau Mau comment honestly does add a lot of stuff to it. I was wondering what the Alka-Seltzer meant, because that's what struck me more than anything during that whole scene, that whole interaction. But
I guess it was like an erosion. I guess it was meant, the way I'm taking it is that, because I noticed that scene too, but I didn't want to immediately attribute it to that. But I had to consider the time in which this film was recorded, in which, successful black men weren't commonly seen.
Yeah.
And, like, we're still coming fresh out of the civil rights movement. Segregation is still somewhat a new thing. Like, people don't really... I'm sorry, integration is still a new thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, it's like, here's, like, black men with money. Yeah. After I've seen most of them, like, from Mau Mau land, like, they're supposed to be dangerous. And it kind of just, like, it was the Alka-Seltzer, in his glass was kind of, like, meant to represent an erosion of his... like, previously held beliefs about black people, I guess.
Yeah. And there's other instances where this comes up again, where we will get to, I think, right after the end of this scene. I want to link all of these scenes together real quick. But in this first scene here, reinforcing kind of the Goodwin thing as well, there's a mention, one of the drivers, as he's leaving, he says, he has a comment where he says, I'm going to dig my dirt. And that's kind of like showing like, oh, look, I'm working class. It's a nice, honest occupation. And it kind of kind of separates them from the people that are just taking advantage of the system and just trashing New York. They're not good, honest, working class people. It kind of represents that to me. And then there's this little aside about, look, I got this piece of Errol Flynn's bathtub, who's an actor from like the 30s and 40s. And I think I think that's intentional. It's kind of just like they're all living in the past, the kind of return to greatness thing. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, let's relive the glory of the old days. This everything's better before Watergate and before the Vietnam War. Mm-hmm. Let's relive that. And I don't know if it's just everything was simpler, or there's still the racial aspect, or there's just corruption. I don't know, but I feel like these guys are definitely conservative, and they're gonna vote for whoever's status quo. I think that's what that establishes to me.
Yeah. On another note, though, in a similar sense, I think it was the next meetup of the taxi guys. The bald guy did have a conversation where I don't know.
I was gonna go
exactly
to that next.
Were you? Okay, yeah,
because they're kind of they're yeah.
Like I feel like they may be more socially acceptable to a degree, because he mentions, like, you know what, you're free to do whatever you want in the sanctity of your own home. I don't care if you're gay. Just don't be fighting in my cab. Mm-hmm.
Which I think is intentional. I think it plays on the contradictionary nature of people, in that they're kind of like Travis, in that they'll say like they're okay with it and all that kind of stuff, but deep down, when it comes time to vote, they're not ready for change.
Mm-hmm.
I think
they're not willing to make that adjustment.
Yeah, because he says something about he says about how in California they're way ahead over there. He says he uses the F word to describe
the slur.
The slur. Yeah. He says if they break up over there, one of them gets alimony, and then he basically attributes it to pursuit of happiness thing, and it's okay, and they're way ahead over there, but they're just kind of still stuck in their ways. At the same time, they realize that it's progressive what they're doing in California, but they're just kind of fine with the status quo, and it's just kind of.
It's disheartening almost.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you see that it can be a good thing, that progress can be positive, but still feel the need to stay so behind and stuck where you are?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty messed up. But I think it's important, because that's really how people are. Like, they're all talk, but they're in action, not so much.
Not Travis, though.
Yeah. One last thing. Back to the other taxi scene. That's when it's first mentioned that he knows a guy that can get a real nice deal on a gun. He brings up Easy Andy.
Ooh-wee. Love Easy
Andy. And then from there, what kind of solidifies his idea to get the gun is that scene with the guy that's trying to get revenge on his cheating girlfriend or wife.
Yeah, that was Scorsese, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Which that's a tough scene to watch, but it's important for Travis's growth as a character. What did you guys think when you first saw that? Like, it was like really, like, for me, it was really hard to watch. What did you guys think?
Which scene?
It was such a strange scene, I don't know, like, because ultimately you're watching this guy just like break down. Because, he knows his wife is cheating on him. He's got evidence, proof, or whatever, to some degree. I mean, he sees his wife in someone else's window,
Yeah, and it's important. Specifically, he uses the N-word multiple times, and the racial aspect comes up again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Racism is a heavy thing.
And
very common.
And what he keeps saying is, you probably think I'm pretty sick. You don't have to answer, but you probably think I'm pretty sick though, huh? He's kind of getting a kick out of it, and we don't really know how Travis feels. He's just kind of up there.
Yeah.
And pretty much, I think we get our answer in that the guy that says he's gonna go kill her with a 44 Magnum, and then that's the first gun that he asks about in the Easy Andy scene.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a coincidence that this guy kind of inspired him.
Yeah.
Oh,
and he didn't think he was that sick.
It was like the seed in his mind. He thought, all right, this is obviously an effective gun if he thinks it's going to blow his wife away right in the face, you know? Like,
yeah.
I mean, it makes me wonder, does he... So, in that instance where Travis purchases this gun, right?
Mm-hmm.
44
Magnum.
44 Magnum. Does he have any idea... I mean, he was in the military... So he's got to have some idea the type of gun he just purchased. Like a 44 Magnum is ridiculous. Like,
well, yeah, Easy Andy
like
makes it clear to him. He
shotgun.
says, "Hey, the Magnum, they use that in Africa for killing elephants." Is what he says.
Yeah, like that's not something to be taken lightly.
Get
so it
easy
just
with
kind
that
of
cannon.
I think it like directly relates to his resolve to just. And just like that, I gotta put the hammer down on anything corrupt or obscene.
Yeah.
You know, like I gotta get rid of these screwheads by any means necessary, you know, and this is gonna get the job done for sure because a 44 Magnum, my goodness. Like,
yeah. One other quick detail about the Magnum, which it reinforces the racist kind of theory, the racist gaze theory. He says, Easy Andy says to Travis, I could sell this gun to some jungle bunny in Harlem for $500, but I just deal high quality goods to the right people.
Yep.
Jesus, man.
Yeah.
And you want to know how much he sells it to Travis for? $350.
Yep.
$150 cheaper than he would sell it to a black person.
Yeah, man, it's crazy.
That's just like crazy to me, man. Oh.
Yeah. It's definitely telling of the
previous-
time. It's yeah, I mean ultimately racism is alive and well today, so it was only stronger back then.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's used so heavily, I think, is very, very real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I find it to be very appreciated. You know, it's like a time capsule. It's not sugarcoating or faking it like the rest of these films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it makes it very clear to you that like this is the era in which this movie is set.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Devin, I know you really like this scene. What else about it really drew you to it?
Man, I don't know exactly what it is about it. It's just so interesting, like the dynamic. The character himself is just so interesting. Easy Andy. He's just he's such a salesman, you know? He really wants to give this guy everything. He's got like the smoothest descriptions for everything. And then as soon as he finds out, you know, like, all right, this guy wants to buy every gun I have. I got everything else for him. And he just goes down the rabbit hole, you know? He's got all the drugs you could want. He's got
Cadillac.
He's got cars. Yeah, he's got everything. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
But I just love how this guy describes everything. It's so interesting.
I tallied it up. Travis spent $915 in that scene.
Yeah. And just think about like yesterday's money, you know? That's a lot.
Yeah. Which we're going to get to that later. But you could see in the lead up to this scene where he buys the guns, he's really skimping on like everything for himself. He's eating just absolute trash. There's this specific
living
scene
like
where
off of Wheaties or something.
yeah.
Right.
My determination of what it was is he has a bowl, like a cereal bowl. He has bread like crumbled up, like ripped apart. And then he has milk there, and then he puts like either syrup or whiskey and pours it over the bread, and that's his meal. And sugar.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Bread, milk, I don't know if the milk is in there, but yeah, syrup and sugar. And that's his meal. And I think that's when he really put his mind to it that I need to save up for all these guns, because $915, that has to be like almost a month's worth of wages at that time, I feel like.
Yeah, if not more.
That's crazy. So that means he's just doing the absolute least on taking care of himself to gear up. which that's how dedicated he is to this cause.
He cares, man.
But
He cares.
but back to
But
the
it was like
Easy
in
Andy
direct
scene.
contrast.
Oh, go ahead.
It was in direct contrast to the fact that he was like doing all the push-ups and trying to get in shape and change his diet. So he's like, oh, I gotta get in shape so I can accomplish this mission. But then like those are his meals, and it's like,
Yeah. I think they don't really show what he starts eating after he really gets organized. That whole montage. But I'm gonna assume he improves his diet slightly, because once he bought all the guns, then he could focus all his money on getting his body clean and working out. I'm assuming they don't really show what he eats though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They show everything else though.
Which, one quick thing in that scene, what is the thing where he has his fist clenched over the stove?
No, he has the fire going.
Yeah. What is that? What is that supposed to do for you?
Nothing. I don't know.
I'm like, is that just like a pain threshold thing? Like,
Yeah, I guess so. He's just testing his limits. Hardcore, man.
that always stood out to me.
Yeah, same. To be honest, I remember doing that as a kid. Like, you just want to feel the heat, you know? Just like, interesting. Fire, hot. That's like some caveman thoughts right there, but I don't know.
I can't.
I'm sure I'm not alone. Maybe not everyone did it, but you did it
Sound
too?
off in the
See?
comments. Sound off in the comments if you have done this before, like Devin.
Me and Travis Bickle and Nick out here sticking our hands over fires.
right.
Oh man.
I run it.
Before we get too far away from it, I want to go back to Easy Andy real quick. So another little shot that I really liked in that scene was where he gets one of the other guns. I don't know which one it is. It's a not a Magnum, or maybe it was, but he's pointing it out the window, and you just see like the POV of him aiming. It's first like aiming at a truck, and then he eventually settles on two people, which I think is really telling that he's not intending on self-defense. He's ready to start blasting people.
Yeah, he's really gung-ho about the whole thing at this point.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing. Kind of with the salesmanship that you were really impressed with Easy Andy, it also kind of goes back to that, looking back to the past and yearning for the past as a sales technique, which I think is politicians do it, gun salesmen do it. This is his Easy Andy's quote about the 380 Walther. He says, "Holds 8 shots in the clip. That's a nice gun. That's a beautiful little gun. Look at that. During World War II, they used this gun to replace the P-38. Just given out the officers."
Yep.
That's key, because it skipped over Korea, skipped over Vietnam, back to a war that everyone could believe in. World War II, you know?
Right.
Back to greatness. It's kind of that same thing. Let's go back to greatness, and let's forget Vietnam, and let's be good. And then it had that exclusivity factor as a salesman. Just giving out the officers. You know?
Only the officers. You ready to be that official, huh? You ready to be the man of the hour, the captain?
That's some good salesmanship right there.
Yeah. He's easy, man. Easy to buy from.
But from there, once he gets the guns, the first time he actually uses the gun is in a robbery. He's at the convenience store, and this is after you talking to me, getting hyped up scene. And it comes sooner than he thinks. I think that he's gonna have to use it. He's not expecting it, but this guy's trying to stick up the convenience store. He's also black, which kind of fits in with the whole theme here. And then Travis takes action and shoots the guy. And then the clerk says, basically, "I'll handle it," because Travis says that he doesn't want to get in trouble for it or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, I don't.
He doesn't have a license,
for this, man. Yep.
Yeah. And then the clerk goes around the counter and just
starts kicking the dude. Yeah.
He's beating on him with a pipe.
Right.
And
yeah.
I just think that's just another thing of the time. Like, you can just, forensics can show that, the guy was already dead, and then you hit him after the fact. It's like a hate crime at that point. But it's just like they're gonna believe the white convenience owner that, you know, what he had to do, he had to do. They're not even gonna bat an eye at the fact, why'd you beat on the guy after he was already dead? And you know, he can get away with it because that's just what happens at the. I think that's kind of key to the whole race dynamics of the movie as well.
Yes, indeedy.
Yikes. But yeah, so we can kind of now go into the radicalization. You guys want to go off on the "you're talking to me" scene? We can't leave that out, right?
Oh no, not at all.
Go for it, Nick. Go for it.
So, you know what's interesting, to preface my monologue here, or my statement on the matter, is that I actually first heard this particular a large chunk of this scene as the intro for this song called Epiphany by the Juggernauts. Actually, it wasn't Epiphany, it was Lucifer.
Free
and
promotion.
it goes it goes it intros with this scene, particularly the latter half of his monologue, where, you know, in the beginning he says, you know, he walks by and it's like he's training himself to be able to confront people who might pose something of a threat. But it also shows his descent into madness, because it's like he's preparing for something that's not even here. And that's not even real. You know, it's only real to him. So as he, you know, but I think this monologue in which he pretty much like narrates his mission to himself as if he's talking to a crowd of people.
Yeah. This is like taking on the vigilante mantle, I think.
Yeah, like if he had to,
this is his
if he had to
Batman
have a
moment.
story.
Yeah.
Right, you know. So he says, "Listen, you fuckers, you screwheads. Here is a man who would not take it anymore. Who would not," and then he screws up, which is like, he wants to get it right. He's got to be a perfectionist in this regard. He's like, there can be no flaws for this being, this person that I've become, this new hero, you know. So he continues with, he restarts and he says, "Listen, you fuckers, you screwheads. Here is a man who would not take it anymore. A man who stood up against the scum, the cunts, the dogs, the filth, the shit. Here is someone who stood up. Here is," and it's like he's still writing this, because he never arrives at a conclusion, but he knows exactly like the body of his mission. You know, the conclusion was always up in the air. It was always a big question mark. He never quite knew, because it shows later down the line that he never knew quite what he wanted to do. He had a plan A and a plan B, and once he knew the mission, he arrived at the fork in the road. He was like, okay, but which one is the right choice?
Yeah.
You know, so he said, do I become a vigilante for good or evil? Who is the better person? And then he decides on the latter, that the people were worth protecting, the seeds. His descent into madness, in a way, was motivated by his warped perception of morality, so to speak.
And I think the key part, the fact that he's rehearsing, is it's how performative it is. Sorry.
Yes, as he counts on his hands.
Sorry, what?
No, I was saying I get you, because like when he counts on his hands, like the scum, the cunts, the dogs, the filth, the shit. Like he counts on it. It's like he really means this, you know.
And it's almost like he's throwing his hat in the ring as like a new candidate, pretty much like a defender of the people. And he knows that if he's going to represent something like this, he needs to have talking points. He needs to be rehearsed like it's a speech, almost like he's a politician. And I think that's why he puts so much importance into the rehearsal, is he knows that he's the guy that's going to he's the one that sees everything the way it is, so he has to be the one that takes matters into his own hands.
Absolutely. I thought Travis was a very complex character because Travis is vague enough as a person in general that you can't quite get a read on him. And even those people who are a good judge of character would never quite be able to read him. Because I think that was like what Betsy liked about Travis was that mystery. Because he was not predictable.
Yeah, very much so. And I think that's definitely a big part of his character is that he does, he ultimately has, his sense of justice, but where that takes him is the mystery.
Every time.
Yeah.
And that's with every endeavor. But I can tell based on his character that Travis has problems letting go. And I think I can relate to that. It's not to the degree that Travis has problems letting go, but it's more. It shows up like when we talked about earlier that diner scene when he was with Betsy, and he couldn't let go of the fact that he didn't like this other guy, even though she's having lunch with him, having pie with him right then and there, not asking about him. Not wanting to talk about that dude. She's like, let's hear about you. But I think he was also afraid of, man, I don't want to let her know who I really am. And therein, by that logic, he let her know who he really was.
Yeah. I see.
Interesting take.
Yeah.
Cool. So another pretty important scene, or something that happens it's a thing that happens throughout the movie. I don't know if you guys noticed the $20 bill that Sport uses to kind of pay him off when Iris first tries to escape in Travis's cab, and he's just like, here, go on, you didn't see anything. He throws crumbled $20 bill, and Travis holds onto it throughout the whole movie and separates it from all his other cash because it's like filthy money, blood money. And he keeps it with him the whole time until he goes to infiltrate and visit Iris the first time. He uses that money to pay for his session with Iris.
Yeah.
Which I thought that was... It's just like he does have a strong moral compass pretty much. He sticks to something and he believes it, and he knows this is good money, this is bad money. And then even separate from all the other people he's driving around, he's already determined that he doesn't like them, they're corrupt. But this money is even separate from all that other corrupt money. It's even more dirtier than the other money that of the people that are talking about killing their wives and stuff.
Yeah. In that same vein, I think that's something similar he did when he was paying back that guy in the diner when he was giving the money to the one dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because that's when he first pulls that 20 out, and then he separates it and puts it back in his pocket. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
it's an interesting thing.
So what do you guys think about the whole Iris thing, which it's really tough subject matter, but why do you think he latches on to specifically her?
She was the first one he saw. That was it. That was the first case of a rescue that he needed to perform.
Yeah, it might be.
I think first act of...
I think he might see it as a failure almost because yeah, kind of in the same vein. That's the first type of interaction where he got into, and the girl got taken away. He had no chance to help the little girl out when she first wanted to get away. He sort of let her get taken back in, and every day that she's in Sport's custody from there on out, that was his failure. Every time she's got to turn a trick or anything like that, from then on, that's because of him. And I feel like it's in his character to feel guilt over that, to feel bad about that. So
Yeah.
I think that might be a big sticking point for him, and something that really pushes him to really latch onto her and help her the most.
Yeah.
And I think what even strengthens Travis's resolve is the scene where he has breakfast with her. She's like not on board with, you know, leaving. She says she might want to go move to a commune or whatever, and he can come with her. And there's something kind of important where she says why she gets along with Sport is because he's a Libra and that they're both Libras. And I think that's important, that it's kind of like her being in that situation as a child prostitute was decided by like the stars or whatever, like it's fate, stars aligned, and that's why she's in that. That's like some kind of brainwashing to make a girl believe that she should be in that kind of situation, is like,
Yeah.
she just thinks like it's out of her hands, like this is how it was supposed to be. That she even had a Zodiac poster in the room where she does her business, I guess. But I think that the Zodiac thing is kind of important for her character.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think Travis kind of sees that as like, she thinks like this is her fate, and he thinks he could be the fate that intervenes and changes the course of her fate or something like that, you know? Yeah. I want to talk real quick about the following scene. Like, she already had the talk with Travis about leaving that life behind, and then Sport, as a complete predator, reassures Iris that she's, you know, he loves her and all this creepy stuff, and he puts on that record, which is also the same theme that's been playing throughout the whole movie, the jazzy up-tempo aspect of the score before it devolves into the dark militaristic aspect that kind of plays on Travis's darker thoughts and everything. And I think that jazzy aspect of the score kind of represents the good side of New York, what New York aspires to be.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always a dark underbelly to everything. And to this is like a complete lie. For this situation, Sport is trying to assure her that everything's all right. This situation is normal. It's fate. You're supposed to be a 13-year-old prostitute in love with a pimp and all this, and you know, just listen to the song. It reassures the whole lie and everything like that. Mm. So I want to get your guys' perspective, because I think it's really, because that could be any song. The fact that they use the same song that's playing throughout the movie, what does that mean to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's a heavy reinforcement of like sort of just the ultimate I don't know, running theme of the movie. Just everything is kind of dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how I view it, you know. It's got a sort of noirish, jazzy sort of run, and it's just smooth, somber, and then, you know, when you play it up against a scene like that where the grooming continues, and this guy is continuing to get this girl to, you know, want to stay, sort of coaxing her into believing that it's fate, you know, that she belongs. It definitely just reinforces sort of the dinge of the city, because you hear it every time you're driving through the city, every time you interact with people in the city, and then to hear that in that particular scene just, you know, brings it into the personal.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So really after this point is where the reveal of the iconic Mohawk really occurs, and he's at the rally, and you know, it's coming down to what is he gonna do? Is he gonna go through with it? What's gonna happen? He already kind of revealed himself to the Secret Service agent guy that was there or whatever he is in the previous scene, like being really suspicious, and he gave a false name and false address and everything. So that same guy's at this rally, So he kind of already tipped his hand. So I don't know if that was like just Travis being inept, or it was like he wanted to sabotage himself to fail because he was, I don't know, like definitely sabotaged him. But do you think he intended to sabotage himself in that interaction with the Secret Service guard, security guard guy?
Yeah, it's a hard guess, to try to assume what his
Yeah.
ultimate intention was with that. But it is an interesting thought to think that, he feels the need to self-sabotage. That he's that forward thinking, or subconsciously thinks that he needs to be stopped from what he's doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't imagine any other, reason, any other
Yeah.
conscious reason. So
Because he was already committed to the fact that he sent Iris. He had it all made up. By the time you read this, I'll be dead, and he had $500 set aside. So he knew whatever he was going to do, he was going to die. But we don't know whether he knew he was going to die because he assassinated Palantine, or he died because he's going to go blast everyone in her little brothel. So it's very ambiguous.
Hey, yo, Travis is a resilient guy, man. I'll tell you that much. Because he got shot in the neck and was like, it was like, just a scratch. Doop, 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 doop. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. I was like, sure, like, I was like, oh, he's dead. He's going to bleed out. I'm like, no.
But yeah, we can go into that scene now. Let's go. So he decides not to assassinate Palantine because the guys are onto him. They start going after him. He runs away, and then he jumps right into his taxi and just drive in full speed. There's this funny little bit where the guy's trying to hail the cab, and Travis just drives right by him, and he's like tunnel vision. He knows he's got to do something righteous right now, and goes right up to Sport and kind of toys with him. I know he's in my opinion, this is him trying to play on that like performative aspect. He's trying to get like, oh, I need to get a good line in, something memorable, and it doesn't really like play out the way he thought it was going to go. And then all he manages to get out at the end before he shoots him is suck on this, and then they blasts him, and then he goes over to like the little stoop area right in front of the lead up to the apartment. He sits down for a second. I don't know, something about that seems important, but I can't really put my finger on it. Do you just think he's still processing what he's going to do, or why do you think he sits down for a moment before he goes in?
He needs to collect his thoughts, I guess, and calm himself before he goes in to do this crazy freaking mission.
Which that's the magnum, right, that he uses on the old man and blows his hand off.
Yeah,
it's got to be the magnum, right? Every time that hand just explodes, man, it gets me every time.
Yeah.
Which, fun fact, this scene is what was going to make this movie X-rated, but Scorsese had to tone it down a little bit. He desaturated the blood to make it acceptable to be R-rated. Just so you know, legend has it. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's a really good scene overall because he goes up there, he's on a mission, he gets the guy. He doesn't even take him out right away. He just lets him like follow you and I'll kill you, and just in like slow mo gets blasted in the neck, takes out Sport, double taps him, goes up, measure. And then even gets to use his little harness gun. Comes in handy.
Yep.
Shoots the mobster dude. He looks like he's in organized crime. Shoots him in the face. He goes blasting. Hits the little beads. Takes the beads out. Oh man. And I just think. I feel like he was going to assassinate Palantine because this is so not in his style of being rehearsed, and I don't think he planned it. This is like improv versus the rehearsal, And then even the fact that none of it was planned, he ended up with running out of bullets. He was gonna shoot himself in the head, ran out of bullets. That just shows that it was improvised, and then it just kind of freezes after the cops come in. and the famous like finger gun to the head,
Yep.
blood dripping down.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the most chilling shot I think of the movie for me. The,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah, definitely an intense scene. Just an orgy of freaking violence.
Right? I was sitting there like,
Yeah.
damn, man. Even in 1977, they were getting down like this.
Blood and gore, my dude.
so
Blood.
anything. Well, sorry, one last thing. The fact that it does that freeze frame kind of thing and zooms out through all the carnage. What do you guys think about that?
They're like, look what this man did.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
I can't think of any particular movies that it happens at the moment, but I know that kind of shot is a trademark of Scorsese's movies. It's called like the God's Eye view, I believe. I think he uses it. I'm gonna have to look it up. But to me, that view, the slow mo, the freeze frame, it's just kind of, it represents like judgment, like God's judgment or whatever higher power there is, because time is like eternal and it's encapsulated in that moment. Everything's frozen, and judgment can be, you can arrive at judgment in that moment and freeze it in time, and that's kind of what that represents to me. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Travis made his decision, which it gets to the point where there's debates on, did he die? What happened? Is the rest of it fantasy? Is it like his dying, like
dream, fever dream?
Yeah, fever dream before he dies.
Yeah.
I guess it's meant to be ambiguous. I don't know if this is official, but I have heard that the writer and Martin Scorsese both intended it for it to be real. That really happened. He became like a hero, like against all odds. They thought that would be interesting. That one decision one day in your life can have you be infamous or a hero. He could have been an assassin. He ended up being cracking down on organized crime and child trafficking and prostitution. It just reversed his whole fortune, and he could live off of this reputation for some time, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I guess that's
I'm
how
sure
life
plenty
is.
of radio stations and publishers would love to talk to him about his story.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's the thing with Betsy at the end, which is what always made me think it was a dream. So I'm like, there's no way this girl's ever going to go out with this guy again after all the obsessive pursuits. He tried to
No way.
confront her. I always thought it was fake, but I don't know. Maybe the writer and director say otherwise, that it is supposed to be real. But one thing that they did say on a commentary, which I don't know exactly where it was from, I just heard through the grapevine, they had intended for it to all be real, and that the ending of the movie where he's looking at her only through the rear view, which I think is kind of cool, because he's like, oh, I'm past you, you're just in my rear view mirror, that kind of thing is the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah.
He's looking back on her, and then when she gets out, he kind of he makes like a weird like twitch, and when he looks in the mirror one last time as he's driving away, with like a crazy look in his eye. And that the intention of that is supposed to represent that this ending shot could be spliced into the beginning of the movie, and it could be like a cycle, and showing that he's back to where he was in the beginning, and that he's really never going to change. He's, no matter what people think of him in the public eye, he's still the same Travis that's just hung up on the same things, and he's going to go down some kind of dark path, most likely, is what I think it's hinting at.
Yeah, I like that take. It's really good. It's really interesting. I honestly do like the idea that it's real more than I like the idea that it's, false
dying.
or a dream.
Yeah.
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 Because ultimately that means that the girl gets out, and I think that's awesome. That's something that, I personally would like to root for.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And then, just seeing Travis as a character continue, I think is
Yeah.
strange, but I think good ultimately for cinema.
And Palantine got the nomination too. Was the other thing that's revealed in that scene.
Yeah.
So maybe it's
nice.
a bright future.
Yeah. So it's not so bad. I guess he in a way he might have been in combination with what Travis did, that might have been a motivating factor for a lot of people to have hope for the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And coincidentally, the 76 election is when Jimmy Carter was elected, which was the last Democrat to get elected prior to Bill Clinton. So he was like the lone Democrat president in the 70s and 80s. Surrounded by a bunch of Republicans. So kind of, it was kind of trending that way. Like, oh, maybe there's hope. We're getting away from the corruption of Watergate and Vietnam, and maybe there's a bright future. I think it ends on a hopeful note like that, hoping that maybe everyone gets together, the corruption will end, and everyone will be equal, and it's like a nice sentiment, I guess.
Yeah, we can only hope for the kumbaya in the end.
That's all.
So next, guys, I think we will move into creme de la creme, talk about our favorite scenes, performances,
Oh my gosh.
shots, quotes, everything, all the creme.
Run it.
Yes.
I guess we'll start with favorite scenes, which we already kind of discussed some of them in detail. I think everyone likes the "you talking to me" scene. Of course, the final shootout at the end. But I'm going to bring up one that we haven't really talked about yet, which we kind of did, but it's kind of the aftermath of Travis and Betsy's like disaster date, where he's trying to figure out why she's not returning his calls and everything. And there's the scene where he's on the payphone. I don't know why I'm drawn to it so much. That shot, it's just kind of static. Him on the payphone, and then there's like two older payphones next to him. It's like it reminds me of like that evolution of man, like flow chart thing, like going from like ape to caveman to like Homo sapien or whatever. So they have like the really 1920s version phone, and then they have like the newer one, and then they have the current one that Travis is using. So during this conversation, he's trying to figure out, because he doesn't know what he did wrong. He's still in denial. He's asking her, are you feeling better, or maybe you had a virus or something? 24-hour virus, it can happen. Yeah. Just trying to explain it, like, oh, she must be sick. That's why she left me and gave me my or didn't accept the album gift, and was pissed off that I took her to a porno and all that. So
that's how you know that this fool is like high key out of touch with reality. Because it's not even like he's still like in denial, trying to figure it out, even after she was like,
yeah.
Even after she was like tripping on the film itself.
I know it's just so funny. He's just like, man, how can you be that out of touch, man? And then it goes from there straight into another scene in his apartment, which are always my favorite scenes, because that's where all the action happens of him like at his darkest. And he talks about how he's sending flowers and she's returning them, and there's all these flowers piled up in his apartment just rotting. And he like just is so persistent, and it's like kind of amazing how persistent he is. And then he lays on this quote right here that always gets me. He says, "The headaches got worse. I think I got stomach cancer. I shouldn't complain though.
Yeah.
You're only as healthy as you feel." I'm just like, dang. So he's trying to explain she is maybe sick, and then he's like, oh, well, maybe I have stomach cancer. That's why I'm not feeling well, rather than just accepting he got rejected.
Yeah.
Stomach cancer. That always just throws me off. It's so like hardcore. Like, dang, dude.
Yeah, just like the most random thing.
He went to the next level.
Yeah.
But this scene, it's kind of a combination of two little bits of a scene, but it's really just shows like his turn to just like giving up on Betsy and going away from the Palatine campaign. And this is where he kind of just says that women are just cold and distant, and he just like gives up women in this moment because they what's not to like about Travis Bickle.
Right, the man is just a suave devil.
He's a jewel.
Great dude.
Totally worth having until he starts going crazy on you and going through your phone and
crazy on you.
You guys have a favorite scene? I have a few more, but I want to kind of rotate with you guys.
Yeah, honestly, my favorite scene was one we've already kind of discussed, and it's the one with Easy Andy. And
yes,
yeah, it's just so good.
Yeah.
Just
it's up there.
Yeah, just running through his slick salesman speech. Just love hearing that every time. In fact, that's where where one of my favorite quotes is from too. It's just like him running through every single drug he can find you.
Nice.
Yeah.
He makes it easy, that Andy.
Uh-huh.
You know, there was a part of me that thought that Travis
One-stop
was
shop.
gonna go somewhere. Like, right? It's like if you need it, I got it, bro. Trust me. Don't worry, I got everything you need. If you feel like getting high out of your mind, trust me, I can get it.
Yeah.
Like it's nuts. You know, I actually thought that Travis was gonna get like some kind of drug and be all like totally jacked on it. And this fool just kind of looked at him. He was very condescending about drugs and drug use in general. That he looked at it like, nah, man, that's
I'm not
for
interested
me.
in any
Like,
of that. Yeah.
I don't do that. And I wonder if it was because it was like he felt some kind of like had some kind of prejudice against drugs and drug users, or if it was because he's like, no, I got to keep myself focused and I can't do that if I'm on drugs, you know.
I think it's both, because he looks down on everyone else, but also he does want to at some point be clean. He gives up the junk and everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely view it as like a double thing where it's both.
Mm-hmm. Nick, do you have a favorite scene? It could be the ones we already talked about, or is there another one that we haven't?
I would probably have to say it would be some of the ones we talked about, and like mostly, like I said, was just the montage of him going down to his descent into madness, more so. It wasn't it wouldn't say it was a scene per se. I'd say it was like, oh wow, this guy actually is convinced that he has to do the right thing, and he keeps it vague enough to where you don't know what the right thing is. But then he quits cold turkey, giving up the junk food and the liquor.
Yeah,
and
the pills
and so,
too.
Right.
Yep.
And so going forward, I'd have to say it was probably the scenes where he was most sane. It was generally when he was driving the cab.
I see. When he's narrating and stuff.
Yeah, like when he's just kind of, it's his take to be observant of the city. And I think a large part of how the people that he transports in his cab tend to be the best, the most close, a melting pot of representations of humanity. And to him, he's like, oh, you're all fucked up. So I guess I gotta start somewhere and eliminate all of these screwheads, as he labeled them.
Screwheads. Yeah. I always wonder, like, what does that actually mean? What is the, like...
Yeah, what is the terminology?
You're twisted.
Let's see. Urban Dictionary, let's see.
That was probably something he made up at the time.
I'm gonna find out right
you
now.
Fuckers, you screwheads. Here's a man who would not take it anymore. A man who stood up against the scum, the cunts, the dogs, the filth, the shit. Here's someone who stood up. Here is. Do-do-do-dum-dum. Do-do-do-dum-dum.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not really coming up, so it might be a dated reference. All right.
Don't worry about it, buddy.
So, any other nominees for best scene? I have one more.
None for me, sir.
All right. So this is kind of more like a montage. I call it the getting organized montage. It's basically when he decides that he's gonna get in shape, which we just kind of mentioned. He
that was actually one of mine too.
because there's just so much like, it's like a awe-inspiring scene for me.
Yeah.
Because there's a combination of him just doing that training, push-ups, pull-ups, everything. He has a quote that says, June 29th, I gotta get in shape now. Too much sitting has ruined my body.
Yeah.
Too much abuse has gone on for too long.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, and that scene is also cool because you get an idea of his he has a scar on his back, like a significant scar.
Yeah.
From his time in the military. And then that scene kind of bleeds into him training, using the gun or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he does this thing where he points a gun at the Palatine poster, which I thought was a really crucial moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like his statement, like taking on the vigilante mantle again, as we mentioned earlier, taking matters into his own hands. And at this point, I'm going to combine one of my favorite quotes right here with this scene. This is where he says, "True force. All the king's men cannot put it back together again." And I thought that was interesting. It's just like the politicians aren't getting the job done. The mayor's not getting it done. It's time for me to show some true force and actually take, be a vigilante, take matters into my own hands, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
riffing off of the organized montage, as you call it. I do think that is really relevant to this point because it does reference back to what he says during the montage, during his little monologue. In the latter half of that little thing that we just read, it says, "There will be no more bad food, no more destroyers of my body. From now on, it'll be total organization. Every muscle must be tight." So yeah. That's him finally getting it all together. Finally sticking to what he said, getting organized.
And it calls back to that first scene where she accused him of being a walking contradiction. This is kind of him eliminating the contradiction part of his personality and committing to one side of it. And being the violent, aggressive, radical.
Yeah.
I guess. No more confusion.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I guess we can move on to quotes. I have a few quotes we haven't mentioned yet. Do you guys have any other favorite quotes, or do you just want to nominate one of the ones we already talked about as your favorite?
I mean, like, basically the ones from those two scenes, the Easy Andy scene and the montage scene. Basically, just that little quick ending riff where he starts asking him, like, if he wants anything. How about dope, ash, grass, hash, coke, mescaline, downers, Nambutal, Tuinol, chloral hydrates? How about uppers, amphetamines? No, I'm not. That's when he jumps in. He's like, no, he's not interested in that stuff. It's like crystal meth. I can get you crystal meth, nitrous oxide. How about a Cadillac? I can get you a brand new Cadillac with a pink slip. It's just crazy, Like he's got this whole laundry list of things in his mind that he's ready to just deal out at any moment, at any time, to anybody. Yeah,
Hey, the mentality of a hustler.
He's got sources, man. Yeah, it's crazy.
I got guys everywhere.
For real. I've got such an appreciation for a guy like that. I don't know what it is.
It's the pursuit of happiness right there.
Yeah. He's obviously a bad guy, bad character, but you can't knock the hustle,
Not at all.
He'll be all right as long as he standardizes his selling prices to all races.
Yeah.
They need to all be standardized.
Preferably, that would be kind of nice.
Oh man. What about you, Nick?
No, just the ones I mentioned earlier.
Okay. And two of mine have been mentioned already. I'll just run through them real quick, and then there's one that we haven't really talked about yet. So it was the one we just talked about, the organized one. The idea had been growing in my brain for some time. True force. All the king's men cannot put it back together again. I think all of these speak to his character so much. And then the other one was, all my life needed was a sense of some place to go. I don't believe that one should devote his life to morbid self-attention. I believe that someone should become a person like other people, which we mentioned earlier when he was considering fitting in and stuff. But I think that's just like the early Travis. That's what he was trying to do, and it didn't work. He abandoned it. And then the last one, and we haven't really talked about the God's Lonely Man speech yet, but this is a little excerpt from it. He says, "Loneliness has followed me my whole life, everywhere, in bars, in cars, sidewalks, stores, everywhere. There's no escape. I'm God's lonely man." And
so depressing.
I think that says a lot about him right there. Just feeling like he's the only one that sees everything wrong in the world. He's the only one that wants to change it. Everyone else has some kind of ulterior motive or some other reason to be doing things. No one's a straight shooter like Travis, you know? I just feel like, man, how can you get to that point where you think you're the only one that believes something, you know?
I don't know.
Man.
I mean, when you're feeling as isolated as you are, as that character is, you know, it's easy to get to that point, I would suppose.
Yeah, and I get it. My whole theory is it was just the Vietnam experience. This happened to a lot of people. So they came back and they didn't feel whole anymore. They felt out of place, and they feel underappreciated. Like, I feel like he feels like he sacrificed so much, and he comes back and everyone's just ungrateful for the sacrifice he made. Everyone's, taking advantage of just the American dream and just flushing it down the toilet with all of their corruption and what was he fighting for? And I think that's why he's so bitter, is that he probably saw so many people die over in Vietnam, and here he comes back and no one cares.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
All the hippies cared.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. NYC's different, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. He should have been in San Francisco. He would have been in good company out there.
That reminds me, though. This is the premise for First Blood, Rambo, the first Rambo movie. He's a Vietnam vet that comes home and he can't fit in, and then he gets targeted by the police, and then he gets in this situation where he's running from the cops, and yeah, there's a lot of those kind of Vietnam made you into a monster and you don't fit in anymore type movies, which they're all pretty good actually. It's a good genre.
Produces a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, not really.
Not good people or
but yeah, we can move on now to best individual shots. I have a few shots I just want to talk about in detail. I don't know if you guys have anything in particular that stands out. But one I think that we can all agree on is the finger gun at the end with the blood dripping from it. That as an individual shot, I just feel like that's art right there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There's just so much going on in that scene. Just the fact that he ran out of bullets, so he still, had some in the chamber in his finger gun. Just says a lot.
Yep.
Do you guys have any specific shots that stood out to you?
I think I like the specific one where it shows him and his date. What's her name? Betsy, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Betsy.
Yeah. At the X-rated theater, and it shows the marquee overhead, and it just I don't know. It feels very telling of the film. I don't know. I don't know why, but I
Yeah.
like that scene. It looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, just how, just like you said earlier, how open it was. Like everyone was just, that was a thing you do.
Yep. Yep.
Oh man.
People are just into it. No big deal.
What about you, Nick? Any particular shots that you thought were really cool or effective?
Particularly the scenes on the street when driving the cab, in or out of the
Yeah.
car.
Mm-hmm.
It really encapsulates that the title of the film, Taxi Driver, and it's like these are the streets from a cab driver's perspective, and because it's in New York, it maintains that gritty, dark feel, and most of the film takes place at night, which is one of the things that I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
So, you often see him driving around at night, and I really love those shots.
Yeah, with like, I really loved how the lights were always reflecting in the windshield, or the windows.
Yeah.
Or in the street when it was like kind of wet or rainy.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
definitely gives those daytime scenes a lot more punch when the majority of it is at night.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
he's always usually alone in his room most of the time during the day.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right.
Which, while we're on the topic of the taxi, that is one of my shots I want to talk about. There's that one shot where there's like I believe it's the fire hydrant is like going off, and
Yeah.
it shoots
Ooh.
on his windshield, and then he
Uh-huh.
has to like clear it.
Yep.
I think that I just like the symbolism behind that, because we didn't mention this quote, but wishing like a real rain would come and wash away
Yeah.
whatever, something like that. I just think it goes with that, like that's like all artificial rain. He wants a real rain, like real
Yeah.
justice,
Yeah.
instead of this artificial rain from a hydrant. And then just the fact that his obscured like way of looking at things, he can't see for a moment because the water's all over the windshield, and he clears it, and then I feel like Travis really thinks like he sees things clearer than anybody else, and that's how he gets
Yeah.
like that focus and that tunnel vision, and that's what really gets him like going, is knowing he's right and having a sense of purpose, you know.
Mhm.
Any other ones? I have two more, but I'll let you guys throw some in real quick.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Real quick, we already talked about it, but that Alka-Seltzer's shot just sticks with me. Just the bubbling and the zoom, and just like the ticking time bomb essence of the shot, just really puts into perspective kind of like how Travis's brain works. He
Yeah.
can zone out, and it just epitomizes him, I think, as a character.
Mm-hmm.
One other one that I think is pretty iconic, other than, of course, you talking to me, that kind of thing, which it's, everyone knows it. We don't need to talk about it. But the Mohawk reveal, where it kind of just pans up slowly to him standing there in his military jacket with the Mohawk at the Palatine rally, and we don't know what's gonna happen. We're like, oh, this guy's really there now. He's in that place. I don't know. Is he gonna kill him? What's gonna happen? I just think
Yeah.
it's so suspenseful, like the slow pan up, and then you're like, oh man, it's about to go down.
Yeah.
It's really
I think,
ineffective.
Yeah, I think another good one would be the scene where it sort of shows when he's like in the scenario with the robber in the convenience store.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it shows like all of them together in the same shot. It's just when he's like holding the gun on him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like
That's some.
it shows the moment when everything's about to turn. First time he uses the gun,
Yeah. Kills a guy,
yeah.
a civilian.
Yeah.
Assuming he's killed Vietnamese soldiers.
Dumping.
Yeah. That as a key shot too. And I have one last one. It's kind of back to that one I talked about as a favorite scene. The one where he's on the phone talking to Betsy, trying to regain her affection. That scene starts static with the 3 phones, the evolution of phones, I guess. And then when he's really like to the point where he's striking out, and it's obviously not gonna pan out for Travis. It's like I don't know what it's supposed to represent really, but the camera kind of dollies away from him having the conversation while he's still having like it lost interest. The camera pretty much it dollies away to the hallway, and then the rest of the conversation proceeds with Travis off screen. I just thought that was just like so telling that like everyone knows that Travis is full of crap at this point. Like, it's just move on. We lost interest. That phone call is going nowhere. That kind of thing is what it signifies to me. And
right.
and if it's just kind of like the progression, and he's as far to the right as he can be on that phone, and then the next step is he's gonna stop trying to talk to her anymore, and that's when he really decides to make a change and try to make, you know, affect the status of New York City on his own. So it's kind of like the hallway represents the new path that he takes after that phone call dashes all his hopes of being normal and fitting in. But yeah, if that makes any sense to you guys.
Yes, indeedy.
Because that's just my own brain working, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I definitely like that scene too.
Cool. So next we could talk about favorite performance, which that's tough. There's like 6 great performances in this movie, but which we could talk about Robert De Niro all day, but I guess we could talk a little bit real quick about him and then move on to just some of the supporting players.
Yeah. In terms of Robert De Niro, I just think that like every awkward interaction he has is pretty great. Every sort of white knight moment that he has, I think, is great. Whenever he's talking to
Iris.
Iris. Yeah. I just love him when he's in the cafe with her, and he's just like, you don't want to change things up. You don't want to go back to school or anything. You know, you want to change up your life. Yeah.
It's like him at his most normal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It just feels, I don't know, like a good portrayal of him as a normal guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, whereas like every other time you sort of just get this sort of, I don't know, skewed perspective of him. I feel like in those points you just get like normal Travis.
Yeah.
I'd say in that same vein, his conversation with the Secret Service agent is almost the same way. I feel like it's obviously a character that he's playing, but it's an interesting character.
Yeah.
It's a character that, you know, people wouldn't think anything of. And I think that's interesting, too, that he's a character playing a character in that scene, you know? It's kind of like that line by Robert Downey Jr. He's just a dude playing a dude, you know?
Yeah, that scene was funny to me because it also made me doubt that his name was even Travis Bickle, which seems like a fake name.
Yeah,
to begin with. Because in that name, the name he gives the Secret Service guy is Henry Crinkle.
Yeah.
Which sounds similar to Bickle. I'm just like, man, can I even believe his name is even Travis Bickle? That's what that really made me think when I saw that. Well, while we're there, there was a funny exchange between them. He's kind of like, hey, so what are you doing? And just trying to, I think he's trying to scan and see like, oh, is there probing for weakness pretty much? Can I get through to Palatine if I need to? I don't think he really wants to be a Secret Service agent. I think at this point he's already plotting the assassination, but that's up for debate. It could be he really wanted to work for the government, which is crazy. But he asks him what he's doing, and the Secret Service guy says, I'm just waiting for the senator. And Travis looks at him like, oh, yeah, sure. I'm just waiting for the sun to shine, he says. I always thought that was funny.
Yeah.
And then he promptly is like, this guy's up to something. And he's like, oh, you want to sign up? I can send you all the info you need. Just give me your name and address, and we'll send that right over to you.
Yeah.
And he doesn't fall for it, obviously. He gives a address
Fake
with
address, like New Jersey, somewhere in New Jersey.
And then his phone number doesn't have enough digits, and
that's 6 numbers. Yeah,
that part's funny.
Supposed to be 7.
Man. But yeah, overall, man, I think it's De Niro's it's hard to say it's his best performance, but I think it could be. And it's a shame he didn't win an Oscar for it. He was nominated for Best Actor, but he did not win. Yeah, anything else to say about De Niro's performance before we move on to the others?
Nothing here.
I think we're good. We already can establish a lot of his other stuff is good. Obviously, Montage.
Yeah.
That was great.
So aside from him, who do you think was like, runner-up, silver medal for performance?
I think Iris did a really good job, all things considered. I mean, child actors have a hard time, with anything. You gotta really, really pick the right ones, And, I think she did a great job with her role.
Yeah, she was nominated for Supporting Actress Oscar, too.
Oh, snap. Who? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, she did a great job, playing the role of a child prostitute.
Yeah,
I don't know how else to say
the ethics of that performance are a little, suspect.
Up in the air, yeah. That's not the greatest role to play, but
it messes with your head when you do stuff like that.
Yeah. I think that is the rumor about all that. I think she's on record as saying that it took her a while to get past it and get over it eventually, or she was dealing with it. Like, she probably still deals with it to some extent, But yeah, it was a great performance. Nick, do you have any? Who's the silver medalist for you?
Sybil Shepherd.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, she was great. She was great.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's interesting when I see what she looks like when she's younger, because I think it was the most telling. And at that time, like, if that movie came out today and people saw, guys would be tripping over Sybil Shepherd, Yeah. She would be trending on Twitter, But when I saw her in that movie, particularly the scene when Travis goes in to try to, spit game at her. And he's standing there talking to her, and he was all like, oh, like, I want you to come out with me or something like that. Like, I had to come and talk to you. And then she kind of like puts the pen in her mouth, and she goes, and she looks at him and she goes, why? And I was like, oh God. Oh my God. Like, because it was like this curious, like, very curious, like, I'm gonna see what this fool's about right now. But like,
yeah,
it was like, I don't know, dude, that shit's sexy. So like, she looked amazing, and I never considered Sybil Shepherd like that before, but when I saw her in that movie, I was like, oh my God. So yeah, definitely Sybil Shepherd gets that one. And then I guess in a close third, Harvey Keitel.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Sport was something else, huh?
Yeah, you better believe it, man.
Yeah. Just him always just standing in that little doorway, just like with the... Man, I don't know.
Yeah.
He was so blunt about, like, oh, sure. She'll do this, she'll do
man?
That.
Yeah. You acting like a cop.
Yeah, he said, like, funny, you don't look hip. That was the other one he said.
Yeah.
My other favorite part that he did, he was accusing him of being a cop, and he said, well, if you are, it's entrapment already. And he's putting up like a cross with his fingers. Yeah. Because it's a small part, but I think it was funny, some of the stuff, aside from the actual, what his character was into, not so funny, but him himself as a pimp was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I'll tell you that much.
But yeah, I agree with you guys though. It was Jodie Foster and Sybil Shepherd are the top two, and then with Harvey bringing up the close third. Cool. Yeah, we're all in agreement on that. All right. So yeah, I guess we can move on now to Hero Life Coach. So
Oh yeah.
this is there's a lot of coaching to be had here. Um, he's an anti-hero, but don't think we can really give this to anyone other than Travis and maybe Iris to some extent. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I feel that.
What's this one?
Yeah, the hero.
The hero? Yeah, Travis.
Yeah. So, on technicality, I counted the Palatine campaign as one of the other heroes that I was rooting for, because they have the opportunity to clean up the city if they fulfill all their campaign promises.
Yeah.
So, what would you guys give? What advice would you give Travis to have him improve his station in life, and not just on that technicality where he became a hero at the end? That how can he clean up his act from this day forward?
He needs to find new hobbies. Biggest thing, maybe actually volunteer for the campaign, or
canvassing.
Yeah, maybe take up basketball or something. Needs to find something to actually wear him out. Ultimately, that was why he became a taxi driver, right?
Yeah, trying to
find something to do.
Sleep,
yeah,
make money.
So,
yes.
Yeah, find a hobby, find something to do, keep an interest. That's the best advice I can have for a guy who's lost in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Therapy.
For me, yeah, therapy too, just like Goku. I don't know if city life is good for him. I think he might need to go back to like maybe the suburbs. Start there, just learn a craft, go to college. Kind of similar to the advice we gave Goku in the first episode again. I don't want to say they're the same guy, but I don't know. But
Goku could have easily gone the Ozaru route. Easily.
Oh man. But yeah, hobbies, suburb life, just a little more slower pace. You need to stay away from all these triggers that you have, and just focus on his he has an empathetic side. He needs to just lean into that. The way he looked out for Iris, he has potential. He just, I don't know, the post-traumatic stress might be undoable without therapy. He really needs it.
Yeah, 100%.
So what do you think, Nick? What advice would you give Travis?
Chill the fuck out, dude.
Yeah.
Like, relax, man. Like, I mean, Vietnam was a pretty costly war for nothing, so a lot of guys low-key got maimed, and people were never really the same after that, so it's a little bit hard to blame Travis because of what he's seen, because, like, you're not normal after a war, especially something like Vietnam. You see those scars on his back, like, something major happened to him. It's not just something like he's coming out of the military working a job that's not necessarily paying the bills. So, the best advice I could offer him is just chill the fuck out. Like, just relax a little, man. Like, he could have been with Miss Betsy just all up in them guts if he had just shut up about that dude and just been normal. Be like, hey, yeah, I drive a cab, yeah. I served in the war, but when he took her to that movie, I think like that was just so. And porn theaters are not normal dates.
Yeah, that's like your already established relationship. Yeah, that's not a first date for sure.
Yeah, that's like what she said. That's like basically saying F me on the first date.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, why? I don't know. And see, the thing about it is, I have full confidence that he did not have the intent to try to sleep with her that night. It was just seeing a normal movie just was not really something he considered. Like, that's a movie to him. That's a movie, is to go to a porn theater. He's like, oh, well, let's go check this out. She's like, no, this motherfucker didn't.
Yeah. He probably checked the Yelp reviews, and there was more satisfied customers here than at a normal theater.
Without a doubt.
Oh man, that's too funny.
The Yellow Pages.
They went to.
Yeah, the Yelp pages.
You
The Yelp
know, there was
reviews
a
are just
part
the
of
crazy
me.
people in the streets.
Help! Help! This shit's whack.
Yeah.
You know, but that's all.
5 stars, 5 loads.
All right. So what about Iris? Which that's tough. She's so young. She got into a bad situation, but I think my advice for her is also therapy. But just to start over. She has a fresh start.
Yeah.
And just I don't know. I mean, I think she should be free to whatever she wants to do when she's a little older. If she wants to go live on a commune, then that's fine. But yeah, I don't think 12 is the right time to be making those decisions.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely think that ultimately Travis was doing good by her by telling her to, pick up, go back home and try to, pick up school again. I feel like he already gave the advice that I would give. So
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. What about you, Nick? Any advice for Iris?
Get away from that clown. Sport is a bad, bad dude.
Yes,
Bad
indeed.
news. Go back to your parents. And at the same time, have a little bit of compassion for people like Travis Bickle. They've seen a lot.
Nice.
You have a whole life ahead of you. Don't become like him.
Yeah. Okay, cool. What about any advice for the Palantine campaign? The other hero, the unsung hero.
Oh. Man, Palantine campaign.
Hey, he won.
Make sure
so...
Yeah, they won.
Keep getting those buttons right,
Yeah. Just make sure when you're in office, you actually deliver your promises.
Yeah.
Right.
Stay true to the message. Stay true to the cause.
Exactly. He sounds progressive enough, so I'm with it.
Yeah.
Be the rain that washes those streets.
Oh, yeah.
In a good way.
The typhoon.
Yeah, just get rid of the child prostitution. Let everyone just live in harmony, and it'll be good. NYC's set.
Simple solutions to simple problems.
All right. Cool. So now we can move on to bad behavior enabler. So full disclosure, this one we can't participate in how we normally would, because aside from Travis as the anti-hero, the other villains of this movie are pretty much Sport and the old man and everyone that runs the child brothel, and we're not even gonna engage on that exercise to try to redeem them. That's irredeemable, so they're disqualified from this exercise. But we can try to explain or enable Travis's darker tendencies, and I'll let you guys take it away first. How would you be devil's advocate to Travis's darker thoughts?
Man, sometimes you just need a little anarchy. Sometimes you need to take that that step out into the wilderness. Need to be Batman. You may not have the billions of dollars, but you have the gumption. You have the wherewithal. You have the drive, the stick-to-itiveness. I think he could do it. I think he could pull it off. I think if he were to go out there and assassinate that presidential candidate, I think, he could accomplish great things. He already killed one person. He could kill a lot more. You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
Maybe by killing this dude, he'd be turning him into a martyr. And you never know. Maybe that's his ultimate goal, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did him a bigger favor.
Yeah. If people want to kill this guy, even for his ideas, think of all the people who would come out on his side. Think of the groundswell that would appear underneath his campaign. So his desire to want to kill him, maybe it's completely reasonable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What I gotta say. Those are my words right there.
I can see it.
Yeah.
See that working out. Yeah. What I would say to Travis is, when has working within the system ever worked out for anybody? You gotta go rogue.
Extracurricular.
Oh yeah.
And then aside from that, he sacrificed so much. It's time for society to give back to him. He's right to want to claim it. What about you, Nick? Any bad behavior enabling for you?
Travis enables his own behavior. That's how I see it. Like he doesn't really have anyone. Like the strange thing about Travis is that whole lonely man argument, it solidifies Travis as more of an introvert. So he doesn't have anybody necessarily around him to guide his actions. No partners, no real friends, just kind of like high and by co-workers that he might have a piece of pie or a cup of coffee with, and then he's out the door again. Other than that, he spends most of his time by himself. So, it's loneliness can drive a man insane. And so when it comes to Travis, I think he is kind of like really truly a master of his own like destiny. So he's enabling his own behavior,
His willpower is unmatched. He sets his mind to something, he gets it done.
Yeah.
He's the modern man for the decade of the 80s. He was gonna own that decade, I could tell.
Yay, verily.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh man. And what about I have also America as one of the villains in this movie. How would you enable America's institutions in this in New York City?
I like the idea of that. Very conceptual. Well, just continue to keep people down and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Segregate, drain, destroy.
And
yes.
Spoiler alert, it accomplished exactly that.
Yeah.
Right. The despondency was evident.
Oh man. Oh. That's good advice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone can go against that logic.
Definitely not.
Abso-freaking-lutely.
All right, guys. Anything else you want to add to bad behavior enabler?
I think we're good.
All
I think we're
right.
solid.
All right. Next, we'll go into Trophy Case, which this is a movie that certainly has a whole case of trophies.
Yeah. Many competitors. First place on the shelf.
Yeah, right. We'll go into the actual potential trophies it was nominated for. De Niro was nominated for Best Actor. Jodie Foster was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. The score, Bernard Herrmann's score, was nominated, and then it was also nominated for Best Picture, but ultimately lost out to Rocky.
Wow.
Which is, I mean, I like Rocky, but it's not like revolutionary like this movie is. I can't ever choose Rocky over this if it was between the two.
Yeah.
Damn. But that's a
Rocky
film. That's coming from a film buff. Like if you ask it, if a Rocky fan heard you say that, they would be like, "What do you say?" It's like blasphemy to them. They could never think that you would choose another movie over Rocky.
Yeah. But this movie, in my opinion, has inspired way more directors and writers and actors than Rocky ever could have.
I'll get
Yeah,
that.
I think
Being
that's more main
influential,
fare,
honestly.
but Taxi Driver is definitely more character, deep dive, main driven. So,
And that style is just something that really just came out of the late 60s and 70s. And
yeah,
that's accepted as the norm now on how we watch.
I mean,
movies and
ultimately,
TV.
what the Joker is basically like a direct pull from this and
King of Comedy.
King of Comedy. Yeah,
Yeah, which to me is like a spiritual sequel to Taxi Driver. He also has a really gimmicky name in that one. His name is Rupert Pupkin in that name. Or in that movie, yeah. Which that's a great movie too. We'll get to that one day. But first, I think we're gonna, instead of just ranking Martin Scorsese's movies, I also want to throw in a quick mention to Bernard Herrmann, who this was his last composition before he died. He actually died before it was released. He died on Christmas Eve, 1975. So he didn't even get to see the release of this movie, and he's just like a legendary composer. I don't know if you guys are familiar, of course, with his work on Psycho, right? He did Psycho. He also did some other collaborations with Hitchcock, North by Northwest, Vertigo, and others, which
Good stuff.
I'm a fan of all of his Hitchcock work. And then he also worked with Orson Welles as well. He did the score for Citizen Kane, and also the score for the original Cape Fear, which Scorsese later adapted himself and made a remake with De Niro. So, yeah. But yeah, if I were to rank real quick, this one, Taxi Driver, and Vertigo are like the top two for me, with Psycho rounding it out as third. Vertigo is an amazing score if you guys haven't heard it or seen the movie. I could just think of it right now. It comes up in my mind all the time. It's just
Iconic.
Yes, it is. So we will get to that movie as well one day, because I don't know, it could be in my top 5, maybe my top 10 movies all time. So
solid.
What movie is this?
Vertigo.
Okay.
It's a Hitchcock movie. Yeah, it's.
Yeah,
I think
I know the basic plot of it, but I haven't seen it yet. So.
Oh man, it's a treat.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's his best. Right before it goes Vertigo, and then I think Psycho would be second place.
Solid.
But yeah, that's a quick shout out for Bernard Herrmann. But yeah, we can move on to Martin Scorsese now. So where does this film rank amongst the other films of his that you have seen?
Well, there are so many movies that he has worked on. It's a long list to go through, but
he's the GOAT right now.
Yeah. I've gotta say that it's pretty up there, though. I gotta say that, like, when I initially watched it, I did like it, but I don't think it was like one of my favorite films. But after watching it over a couple more times, it's definitely grown on me, and I think it was the genre in general, like the slow burn sort of.
It is kind of noirish to some extent.
Yeah, very noirish. The score and everything feels very noir. The scenes, but
yeah, most definitely.
But yeah, oh man, I'd probably have to rate it. Why is this so difficult? I'm gonna have to rate it number 2. Okay. Number 2 on the charts. Yeah, I'm putting it at number 2 on the charts. So I haven't seen Raging Bull yet, so I can't put that one in the running. I know that's supposed to be a great film, but for my personal ranking, I can't put that in there. But yeah, the one film that I would put ahead of it, and this is just for me personally.
You also haven't seen Goodfellas, right? So that's
no, I haven't seen Goodfellas. Another one that's not in the running. Yeah, nor have I seen Irishman. So yeah, but yeah, I'd probably have to say the one in front of it would have to be. And again, this is just me. I know it's not one of his better things, but Shutter Island. I don't know what it is about that film, but I really like that film.
It's great. It's in my top 10 for sure.
Yeah. It's just an interesting another character, film. The twist at the end gets you,
Yeah, I think that movie's underrated. Like, people are starting to appreciate it more now.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have what rounds out your top 5? If you got Shutter Island, Taxi Driver.
So yeah, I got Shutter Island, Taxi Driver, gonna go Departed, Wolf of Wall Street, and then I'm gonna go is it Gangs of New York?
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, you can't really go wrong.
Yeah, got a lot of good stuff. So.
All right. All right, Nick. What about you? Do you have a top 5, and where does this rank? Is it in your top 5 for Scorsese?
I can't say 5.
Oof.
Because I haven't seen 5 Scorsese films.
For sure.
We'll work on that, guys. We need to work on that.
Yeah. We'll just bust out a marathon.
I'll be glad to.
3. There's only 3 that I've seen. And that's that's Taxi Driver, Casino, and Goodfellas. And in comparison, so for the track record I have to go on, things don't usually end on some high note.
No.
But ironically,
yeah, definitely not.
Ironically, this turned out well in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an improvement upon the situation upon which Travis had come to know and discover,
Yeah.
Whereas when Travis looked at when you look at Travis in Taxi Driver and his situation versus the things that the other characters go through in the other movies, they had bad intentions. They're oh, we're doing dirt and we know it and we're gonna keep doing it. Whereas here he's he's principled in some way that he wants to do something for someone. He wants to pay it forward. It might be a little bit askewed, but he wants to pay it forward. And so I'll give it to him that for me, out of the 3, but it still didn't have the same impact in terms of that
Nice.
that I got from especially Casino. So I'll say I'd have to give it 3rd out of the 3.
Okay.
Not that and that's not saying anything bad about Taxi Driver. It's just it's something about the other 2 films.
Yeah. There's a more frenetic kind of pace and the glitz and glamour of Casino, and then everything really moves really fast in those movies.
Yeah.
Which is appealing, of course.
Yeah, and that was the thing. I was just looking at it man, that's just, it's nuts, and I look at it and I say, you got to be kidding me, because the way that Travis operates in these in this series, it's just crazy. And I look at him man, dude, you went off the deep end, dog. I know you're sad, but oh my goodness, man, he got so it was he went crazy on purpose. But I understood that it was kind of just it was representative of his pain, and I guess he never had a way to articulate that greater than, all right, I gotta go 0 to 100 real quick.
Oh, man.
It was you see, he went to such extreme methods to try to change the world. Instead of just trying to do something practical and saying, oh, well, here's this candidate here, I'm going to vote for him because he seems like a guy that's trying to do, make real change.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to be practical and get with this girl who was supporting said candidate, maybe if he had chosen to be level-headed and be with Betsy, then, and just not worry about some other stupid motherfucker when you got this beautiful woman right in front of you giving you all her undivided attention, then maybe you could have gone with that girl and seen something greater. Why would this, it's like what you said earlier, why would this beautiful woman why would this, so to speak, goddess of sorts, because in his mind she had her own theme song.
Mm-hmm. She was untouchable.
Why would this, right?
They
and because he saw her that way, it was why would she involve herself with this guy, this align herself in support of this candidate if she was all bad. Maybe there was something to be viewed there to be taken away from him. If he had aligned with her and just been level-headed, I think it would have been a drastically different situation.
Yeah.
People wouldn't. I mean, but then again, him going 0 to 100 real quick kind of like turned out all right in the end, because he killed a bunch of child sex traffickers and rescued the girl that was with them, and he survived to tell the story.
Fate was on his side.
Right. So, I mean, had he aligned with Betsy and not and just went with, like, they would have still been pimping that girl out.
Yeah. Unless
Kinda
he
weird
worked
how
within
that
the
works,
symptom. Maybe Palantine cracks down on that kind of stuff, but it's unlikely that he could have saved that specific
particular
girl's...
person.
Yeah. And that's kind of the debate. Like, are you going to help individual people, or are you going to try to work within the system and help everybody and hope things trend in the right direction, which is the right course.
It's a hard line to toe when you want to do
It's
right.
like he's going to take matters into his own hands. Like, let's do it.
Flipping a coin, and he came up heads that day.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. So I'll give my rankings real quick. So for me, this is my top Martin Scorsese film. It's close. It's almost a tie with Goodfellas. I think those are impeachable top two, like, classics, masterpieces. From there, my top 5 rounds out with The Wolf of Wall Street, which I was amazed seeing that movie in theaters and just being like, man, he still got it. I can't believe at, like, his age, he's still throwing that fastball. I was just amazed that The Wolf of Wall Street even existed, and that it was just so scathing and topical and, like, just current, and yeah, it was amazing. But yeah, so we got Taxi Driver, Goodfellas, Wolf of Wall Street, The Irishman, which is another indicator that he's still going strong in his 70s.
The man has still got it.
Yeah, man, that movie's great. I need to watch it again, because I've only actually seen it once since it came out in theaters, and I saw it in the theater, thankfully, despite the Netflix
Not many people
distribution.
get that experience. Yeah.
I know, I couldn't pass it up. I had to travel like 30 to 40 minutes away, not too far, but it was worth it. But yeah, so we got Taxi Driver, Goodfellas, Wolf of Wall Street, The Irishman, and then Raging Bull would round out my top 5, which I appreciate Raging Bull and what it's doing. It even got De Niro an Oscar win for his performance, which is a great performance, but I think his Travis Bickle performance is even better than the Raging Bull one, although both great. But Raging Bull is, like, not as enjoyable of a watch. Like, you have to be in a certain mood to watch it, but just like it's in black and white even, which I'm not against it, but it's just it's kind of reserved kind of movie, and the entertainment value is it's more like academic when you're watching. I feel like it's like you can appreciate the artistry on display more than being like really entertaining. Like, you could put Goodfellas on anytime and it's a good night, you know. But yeah, so I'm actually gonna do a top 10 though, just because. So from Raging Bull, I like King of Comedy, which is the successor almost to Taxi Driver. Then I like The Departed, Shutter Island, The Aviator, and then Casino would round out my top 10. With an honorable mention for his documentary, No Direction Home, which is a Bob Dylan documentary, which is really well done. It's like almost 4 hours. Goes into the whole career. It's a really good documentary. But yeah, we're gonna get you guys up to a top 10. We're gonna watch all these movies so we can all have a top 10.
I think that sounds like a phenomenal idea.
I'm with it.
Cool. But yeah, you guys ready to move on? We'll go to Moral Compass now.
Yeah, let's jump into it. Let's just jump into it.
Let's just jump in, like Travis.
Yeah.
All right. This is when the my little harness gun pops out right here on this segment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which is pretty cool that he made that from like scratch. We didn't
For
really
real.
talk about that.
Yeah, all the rigging and handwork. That was pretty incredible.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'll go first real quick on the moral compass. I just think really what this movie is saying, which is saying a lot of things. It's really complex, but kind of what it's distilled down to for me is that the sins of America and human civilization repeat themselves so that we become adverse to embracing change, and the institutionalization and institutionalization
do
of
it.
nationalism.
I believe in you.
I know, right? When you institutionalize nationalism and economy against people, it puts everyone against each other. Everyone just sees the bad in each other, sows division, and change just becomes impossible because everyone's infighting and going against the other without realizing that we're all in the fight together is kind of what I see going on. And Travis is kind of just stuck in that mindset of seeing his fellow man as the enemy instead of the system that created the circumstances that everyone's existing in, pretty much. It's the easiest way I can distill it down. And institutionalization. I said it this time. That's a pretty heavy word, though. I'm sorry, guys.
It's a lot of syllables.
What do you guys think? Moral compass.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think I could have said it any better. That was pretty solid.
Yeah.
Just be aware that don't fight this. Don't fight your fellow man. Fight the system.
Yeah, you have to kind of work within it, and you start your revolution that way. Because if you go the Travis route, you're gonna be flipping a coin, and you might end up being the assassin instead of the hero.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Nick, for
pretty
you?
Much. I would say, like, if anything, for Travis, moral compass, I like his intent. It was a little skewed, but his intent led to a victory.
Yeah.
True.
And it wasn't, he didn't just rescue her, because let's just say he just rescued old girl, right? And, he didn't go in there guns a-blazing, dumping on these sex traffickers. Yeah, he would have rescued her, but then they just would have went and found other girls to pimp out, Instead, he said, oh, no, jail ain't enough for these guys. They gotta go 100%, So, like, it was a twisted, like, morality, like, it was a twisted moral crusade, but at the same time, like, he got the job done. So, and not only that, like, it wasn't just that he saved this girl, like, he, like, nipped it in the bud and said, oh, you're not gonna get anyone else either, like. So,
yep. This is some DCEU Batman stuff right here.
Right.
Yep. Don't play no games.
I think his moral compass. I like Travis's intent, and it got the job done. So, he got a thank you from. And he was even redeemed in Betsy's eyes. He's like, I'm sorry I took you to a porn theater, but I did just totally take down, like, a sex trafficking ring, like, I was more proactive than your fucking Democratic nominator, like, nominee.
Yeah.
Like, so, hey, but, they both they were both doing the job. He was just more proactive.
Different approaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different strokes for different folks.
She's like, damn, this fool
President
ran up
Bickle.
in there and he just killed him just like that? There's no legislation that took down sex trafficking that quickly.
Yeah, man. The 44 Magnum solves all.
Oh, man, dude.
That'll be the new bill.
Hey, you ain't getting up from that, man.
Executive Order 44.
I'm just a Magnum,
Right.
a 44 Magnum. Sitting up on Capitol Hill.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, that shit is like just, and I've been waiting to kill. Yes, I'm waiting to.
The thrill that comes with a kill.
Oh, I hope and Someday that I pray and I will, but today I hope for a single kill.
Oh man, there you go. He has a future in politics, maybe.
Truly beautiful.
All right. Man. I guess we'll move on to our last segment, the Richter scale, which I think there's some heavy seismic activity incoming in this segment.
Oh yeah, get ready for that earth-shattering California drop-off earthquake right now.
Yeah, I'm still waiting, man. When's California gonna separate from the United States?
When do we become an island? Or
like it's just we're gonna be our own
or sink
island.
Whatever
nation.
happens. Everyone's gonna be living in Big Bear at that point.
Pretty much, dude.
We'll be the true coastal elite at that point.
Yeah.
Right. Imagine like it just now there's just a river between the states instead of the state breaking off into the ocean. There's just a big ass river in the middle of the United States.
You gotta take a ferry to get to Vegas.
Right?
I'm down.
They're like, okay, well, it wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. We'll
be the new Venice when Venice eventually sinks.
Right.
Oh,
and Moreno Valley is now a coastal city.
Nice.
Market value shoots up. Better buy that house soon.
Yeah.
Right. Like, oh my goodness.
All right. You guys want to go? I'll let you guys do your scores first.
All right. I'll jump in on it. So the Richter scale, first score of the day, impact on film history. My personal score for this is going to be an 8. Personally, I gave it that because ultimately it had a lot of impact on a lot of directors down the road. So very inspirational to many people. And as we said, it even pretty much was like a direct inspiration for the Joker. So yeah, a lot of people have taken a lot out of it. Ultimately,
heroes in general,
yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a pretty reasonable score without going too high, because ultimately it didn't get the awards or accolades that would give it that permanent status. But
before it's time.
Yeah, unfortunately.
All right, Nick, what about you? Oh, I didn't know you were still going. Sorry.
That's it. Impact on film history, 8. Moving on to Nicholas.
All right.
I would have to say 8. Yeah, I'll give it an 8.
Cool. And why?
Well, I'll give it an 8 because, like, and this is impact on film history, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I'll stick with an 8 just because, like, it's at least before I'd heard of it. If it were bigger, I'd have already seen this movie, and I would have heard of it sooner.
Aside from you looking at you talking to me thing, that's really what you knew of it, right?
Right. And that was really the only thing I had heard, but I didn't know what movie it was from exactly until I'd seen this. And so watching this, it's like, oh, okay, well, you know what? It's not that bad. Like, I mean, it wasn't bad at all. It's just, it was a different take on it. So I actually really liked the film, but for 8, I think because it did add a new film style, and it took advantage of that, like you said, that noir style, that noir feeling.
Nice. Cool. For me, I gave it a 9. And I'm kind of expanding the impact a little bit, because it had not just film history, everything that you mentioned, that it just kind of revolutionized just kind of how stories are told. I think a lot of people took inspiration from it. The performance itself is iconic. I think it's his best work, De Niro's best work, and Scorsese's best work. So that alone is a 9 out of 10. The fact that I didn't give it a 10 because just kind of the obscure nature of it. I don't think it's a very common movie. It's not a crowd pleaser. It's a very heavy movie. But there is one little thing. I was going to give it an 8, but then I realized this movie, it's like affected like real history. There was a this movie actually inspired a real life assassin to try to kill Ronald Reagan in 1981.
Oh snap!
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I had no idea.
Yeah,
guacamole.
so that boosted the impact for me a little bit, being aware of that.
Yeah.
So the guy's, I'm not gonna say the guy's name because he doesn't need to be glamorized, but he, I guess, had some kind of sick fantasy that he wanted to impress Jodie Foster, the real Jodie Foster, not her character. So that the way to impress her was to be like Travis and take the same steps that Travis made. And since she wasn't a prostitute at the time, he was going to take the other path and kill a president instead of saving her. I guess I don't know what his thought process was, but that was allegedly what he was trying to do, was to impress Jodie Foster by killing Ronald Reagan, and he wasn't successful.
Dang. What kind of mental distress that must have played on her. That oh man. And
Martin Scorsese as well considered quitting making movies when he found out like his film could have the power to influence someone like that, which is another urban legend. I don't know if it's confirmed, but something else I've heard about him is that he was kind of really spooked by that. Which
for real.
It's kind of a dark term for my film history segment, but that is impact right there. If it got all the way to
there's any
crazies.
if there that's impact for sure. One thing I would like to bullet point with that, or asterisk with that, is that any medium, there's always going to be someone out there who's going to find something to latch on to help them fulfill their fantasy. So I think regardless of medium, movie, message, whatever is created, there's always going to be someone. Exactly. There's always going to be someone out there who's going to find some relevance or significance in a form of medium that many others will not. And that'll be their trigger. So to think that Jodie Foster would no longer be an actress, or Martin Scorsese would no longer be a director because of this man's actions, I think is wrong, because there's always going to be that person out there, and to fear that you'll trigger him is only going to deprive everyone of the experience otherwise.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
well said.
That's just just my little take on that.
On a lighter note, I wish someone, one of our listeners to this podcast, would try to impress me by sending me like a gift card or something. It just might work.
Yeah.
Hey, you never know. Dreams do come true.
All right, we can move on to personal scores now. Yeah. Go ahead, guys.
All right. Personal score for me, I'm giving it a 9. I give it a 9 just because, it's a good movie. I don't know what to say. It's a really good movie. I don't want to give out a 10 just because I don't believe that there are many perfect movies, but I think that a 9 is like basically perfect. So, yeah. And like I said, it takes a lot of watches to really get there, but once you do get
rewarding.
there, it's really good. Yeah, exactly. I feel like you can take something out of it with every watch. So.
Oh yeah.
That's it for me. A 9.
All right, Nick.
Another 8.
Okay. Cool. You kind of went over it already, but what would have elevated it? Maybe just a different pace, or?
Maybe a little bit more sanity on Travis's part.
Okay. He was like too extreme, maybe.
He was not extreme. It's just he was a little too out of touch with reality. But I mean, got him the W, so can't really knock the guy.
Yeah. Sport and that old man took the L for sure.
They had it coming.
Lost a hand.
They had it coming.
He lost a whole hand, and then his other hand got stabbed, so he lost both hands before getting blasted.
He got
probably deserved it.
Blasted.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
not
sure
like
those
he didn't
hands
get
weren't
shot.
used for anything good.
He didn't get shot. He got blasted. I mean, that dude got smoked with a 44 Magnum at point blank range. I don't know how he shot any of those guys and they tried to shoot back after that. Like, nah, bro. Like, you're a 44 Magnum. I don't want to be on the. Man, your whole hand is gone, bro. The fact that he had to tone down that scene, like, shows you just how dangerous a 44 Magnum is. Like, I mean, that lifts people off of their feet, dog.
Boom, boom, pal.
Jeez.
You know, so when he shot that fool's hand off, I was like, you had it coming.
Yes, indeed. Good score, though. Good score.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add?
Nope.
All right.
That's about it for me.
Yeah. So for myself, I gave it a 9 out of 10. Similar reason as Devin. 10s. I want to leave the 10 for like that masterpiece, which I'm trying to think. Like, I don't know if I have a 10 currently. Maybe, but I won't reveal it at this moment. We'll wait for the podcast, I guess.
Yeah.
There's a
when
10.
You hear
There's potential
it,
for a 10.
You'll wait for that gasp. Okay, just be prepared. It'll be a magical moment.
Yeah, it will.
There's like a legend that once every 100 episodes of this podcast, a 10 is revealed.
Right?
I hope so.
We'll see.
But yeah, pretty much what discounted is not really just perfection is elusive, and then I would just say it's a difficult watch. There's some really heavy subject matter, and we try to add some levity into the podcast overall, but a lot of it is really, some really dark themes. So just on that reason, that just like you can't put it on all the time and be in the mood for it. That kind of thing is the only thing I would say would take it a point down. But it's important. It's an important movie. Cool. And then we will round out our scores with the critic consensus on Rotten Tomatoes of 96%. So that, that's a 9.6 out of 10. So what were your final scores, guys? And are you happy with them?
Yeah, so that rounds my score out to a 8.9. And I feel like that's pretty fitting. Yeah, pretty good
solid
score. Yeah.
And what about you, Nick?
That rounds mine out to an 8.5.
Yeah, respectable.
Overall, good movie. Good movie, man.
Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm. And for me, that rounds out to a 9.2, which I like that. It's a perfect number for my own personal opinion of the movie.
Oh yeah,
I like it as well. 9.2, 92, 1992.
92.3
Good year.
to
beat. The year of my terrible twos.
Yes. The year of my terrible zeros.
When I was at my most Travis Bickle-like, was when I was 2.
So conflicted. Don't know what's good or bad.
Yeah. I could have ended up an assassin, but I took a different path.
He took the righteous path.
Yes.
Good job.
Of being a podcaster. So any final thoughts, guys, before we wrap it up?
Yeah. If this is your first time hearing about this movie, or if you've watched this movie, and you weren't so sure about it, definitely take the opportunity to watch it again. Give yourself that chance to enjoy it, because, like I said, it took me multiple watches to get the full experience out of it. So give yourself the same chance. Give yourself that same opportunity. That's it for me. Yep.
Yeah.
What about you, Nick?
I wouldn't really say I have much. It's a great movie. I liked it. Scorsese has not disappointed me yet. I can't say never, but he has not disappointed me yet. So, this is the third Scorsese film I've seen, and all in all, I like it so far. Good film.
Cool, and I'm kind of gonna go with Devin's sentiment about give it a chance. If you're looking to kind of broaden your kind of film education, which we're all self-taught film educated, and the only way to really get experience is just kind of go out of your comfort zone and really watch stuff that might not always appeal to you on first glance or even after first watch, and just kind of see what it is that made it great and what made it something that gets taught in actual film school. I think you can arrive at similar conclusions just sitting on your couch, and there's nothing that says you need to go to school to learn how to analyze film and say what it means to you.
Yes, indeedy.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
All right.
Alrighty.
Well, if that is it, thank you for joining us for this episode. It has been a phenomenal time talking about this. We hope that you'll join us again for the next episode. And, yeah, till next time. Have a wonderful day.
All right.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Later.